Question everything in pursuit of your purpose. Ask yourself, what if?
Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Pursuit of Purpose podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And we have with us today
Laura May.
Laura May. You know, I love that name. It sounds so Southern. It sounds, yeah, I mean, it sounds Texas.
It's almost like she should have.
Texas name.
Yes.
It's almost like she should have one more name, Laura May,
Mhm.
and then but May's a good last name. So,
I love it. I mean,
Me
it
too.
just has such a Southern flair to it.
It does.
But anyway, well, thank you for coming and sharing
Absolutely.
your story with us
Mhm.
today and sharing with our audience today. We're honored to have you. Just to give the audience a little background, we've gotten to know Miss Laura. I got to know Miss Laura's work years ago in my life through some personal dealings, and we'll get into that later. But we've been getting to know Miss Laura and her team here recently a lot in the past 4 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I propositioned her to be a guest on our show. And believe it or not, she was not reluctant. She said, sure. And, you know, you never know what
Right.
someone's going to do until they do it.
Right.
We've had guests that have put us off. We've had guests that are late. Miss Laura was none of those things.
No.
She showed up here early.
Mhm.
She did exactly like
Yeah.
it didn't matter. She was
Yeah.
ready to go.
Yep. Very
So we
eager.
really appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
here this morning.
Yes, we do.
Looking forward to it. So where were you born, Miss Laura?
So I was born in San Antonio, Texas.
So you are a true Texas
I am a
native.
true Texas native. I was born in San Antonio, Texas, and I actually I was adopted, so I didn't know my story of how I ended up. But I ended up at the Methodist mission home and was placed up for adoption. And my parents, who were both from Arkansas, and my dad had moved out to work for Huntsman as a chemist.
Okay.
And so they came down here with my two brothers. They had already been born. They were born in Arkansas. They were birth children to my parents. And they wanted one more kiddo, and they wanted a girl. And so the best way to make sure that that happened was to do an adoption. Mom couldn't have any more kids. And so they said, we're going to adopt. And her grandfather was a Methodist minister. So they grew up Methodist. So they went to the Methodist mission home. And
What a perfect fit.
Yes.
yeah,
So that's fascinating. And I'm so proud that you share that with such confidence and courage. That's a beautiful story, an origin story. How old were you when you were adopted?
So I was 16 days old when I was adopted.
You were an itty bitty newborn
I was a
baby.
baby. Yeah. So I was, but you know, the thing is, my parents always told me my story. So like at night when you read books to your kid and tell stories, they would tell my adoption story. And so I had known from as long as I can remember that I was adopted. Like it was told to me as a blessing, what a
Yes.
blessing it was to adopt me. So I never saw it as an issue. But you know, it's so funny how other people, they find out and they go, oh, the first thing that most people say is, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh, I'm not. It was great. I have great family, great brothers, great parents. But I think we see there's so much stigma attached to the adoption
Oh, yeah.
story.
Mm.
And
There can be.
I think that, you know, I got blessed because, and we can talk about this later, but I did end up finding out, even though it was a totally closed adoption back then. And the only thing I had was a letter that was written from my birth mom that doesn't have her name on it, but
Oh, wow.
just that she was young, in college, not married, and she was glad that I had some brothers because she had siblings. And that was all I knew. And then I had a piece of paper with height and weight and a little bit of medical information on 2 sets of grandparents and my parents. That was all I had.
Wow.
So,
Well, as far as the stigma goes, so many of us, you know, we going through an experience like that, you wonder, you know, why I wondered why wasn't I good enough to keep?
yeah,
I really thought that.
yeah.
And then my parents had a birth child after me.
Mhm.
So then I felt really weird.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that may seem strange to a lot of people, but I felt less than. I really did. Like, so I can see the stigma, and I can also see the honor in it, because now my wife and I have adopted
yeah.
multiples,
Yeah.
and one at birth,
Yeah.
and he doesn't know he's adopted.
Yeah.
And see, I was going to ask you about that, since your
Yeah.
parents did that with you.
Yeah, I adopted internationally, and then I
Right.
adopted through foster care. But I will say this, even with the very best parents and the very best life, there's no way around the fact when you're adopted of somewhere deep inside of you, there's a part of you that, because I struggled with that, even though my
Right.
parents are wonderful and I've come to a lot of terms with things, but I struggled my whole life with the fear of abandonment. I was never going to be good enough in a relationship, with other people, with my friends, like getting picked for teams at school. You always thought, well, there's something about you that's a little different. So even with a healthy parents raising me, I struggle with that. It's this internal thing that you just can't really turn off. It does plague you, even though.
It did me my whole life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It means a lot to hear you say that.
No, I struggled with it my whole life, and I still have to. But I think, what I think is that God used that for me to help with my daughter and with my son, to kind of understand and be able to walk and talk them. Not that I could change it for them, but that I could put words to it, and I could put feeling to it, and I could really say, I understand and mean it.
That's really beautiful.
That is.
Thank you for sharing that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And that is beautiful. You turned it into a gift to offer others, not a bitterness to keep.
That's right.
Because
Yeah.
too many people do for far too long.
Yeah.
My sister's adopted, and kind of like you guys, I mean, she's very well adjusted. I mean, she actually wore it as a badge of honor. We go to church. She goes, "Hi, I'm their adopted kid," and which was kind of funny, because she favored them a little more than I did. She was dark headed like my parents. I was just a little toe headed, blonde, Dutch looking kid. So they would ask me, "Are you the adopted one?" I go, "No," and I'd point to her. So I was like 4, and she's a baby, you know. But they wanted a girl, and that was the best way to ensure that. And, and the great state of Louisiana at the time, and she has since found her family, and they do okay. They do fine. I mean, but it doesn't deviate a bit from. I mean, we're all up in each other's business, just like a family should be. So everybody's good, and they've done a few things. That they lived in. She was married to a military person. They're no longer married, and I think several places they went, she would find herself involved with a few things, where that were children related like that. And, some directly, some indirect. Some of the churches they were at actually had some involvement, and that gave her a way to kind of give back a little bit, because she knew so much was given to me that I could have never have deserved. And especially when sometimes you meet a lot of the origin stories and it starts rolling out, you're like, oh, thank you, because where I would have,
you don't know where you could have come, what you could have come
you
from.
could have ended up in places.
Yeah, that's part of my story. But I will say that is part of the reason, what you say about your sister giving back. That's part of the reason I ended up in the career I ended up.
There it is. Yes.
And look how many lives.
Oh,
look at the legacy that you've parlayed that into.
That's right.
And invested so much of yourself into hundreds, if not thousands.
Well, children and their children, and
maybe tens of thousands.
And it keeps going.
Well, I mean, if you touched 1,000, and those 1,000 each touched 10.
There it is.
So think about that.
Yeah,
that's enormous. We say a lot on this show, and in our practice, we quote Gandhi, be the change you want to see in others.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what was discipline like in your home as a child? You're the baby girl, the one, the chosen one, no less. I mean, you are the epitome of that, the chosen one. And then you have these older brothers, right?
Yeah, I had 2 older brothers, 6 and 7 years older. And that I can tell you that Mom would tell the story about my middle brother, Keith. She said he was about 7, I guess. And She said she came in and he was kind of shaking the bassinet a little bit. And she goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, she squeezed my finger real hard." And that was the jealousy part coming out, But I will say this: I one of the things about my parents were older when they adopted me. My mom was in her 30s,
Okay.
and so in fact she was the same age I ended up being when I ended up adopting Maylin.
Oh.
And but they had grown up. Both of them grew up in the Depression. So I was raised by two people that both grew up in the Depression. Very hard. My dad was very hard worker, but they still believed in, good old Southern discipline. Like it was go pick your switch off of the
Heck
tree,
yeah.
Yes.
and
Yes.
you didn't want to have to pick a switch off the tree.
Right.
And I didn't get that very often because they really were we were pretty good about things, but mainly it was my brothers doing stuff to me and I got them in trouble most of the time. It was them picking on me. And, in Southeast Texas in the summertime, mosquitoes at dusk are awful, right?
You ain't joking.
So the worst thing I can remember my brothers did to me one time is we were playing Cowboys and Indians in the backyards in Groves, Texas. They still had those poles for hanging the laundry out.
Yes.
Metal poles in the
Clothesline,
backyard
those
for the
T-
clothesline.
T-poles,
T-poles, yeah. So they tied me to the metal pole and left me out there, and they thought that was funny. It was right at dusk, so I was getting mosquitoes were biting. My dad found me in the backyard because I was screaming,
Bless
and he
your
came
heart.
out and tied me, and
I
they
bet
got in
they got the
trouble.
whooping of their life.
They got in trouble. So, but I learned to be really tough by being raised by two older brothers. So, and they're great people and they're wonderful men now, and I love them to death. But yeah, but they did put me through it. I learned to be pretty tough, and I probably was more of a tomboy because I had these two brothers and I wanted to do what they did. They were in Boy
Absolutely.
Scouts. I wanted to do Scouts. So I ended up in Girl Scouts.
That's so
It
cool.
is. And so you were the last addition to the family. Am I
I was
kidding?
the final edition. I was the baby.
So the good thing about being the youngest is you're much more of an exposure learning instead of experience. Like you watch them get in trouble, it's like don't do that.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right. That's right.
That's a payoff.
It is a payoff.
Now some kids don't always get that. They just want to try it anyway.
Yeah,
Best friend,
Yeah.
he's going to do it anyway.
that's right. That's right.
But when these folks come in and we find out their birth order, you can
Mhm.
always kind of see the observing learners. you
Yeah,
know.
that's right.
So
You pay attention. That's for sure.
That's it. That's it.
But my parents were, both of them very strong Christian family. My mother was raised by a Methodist minister who
Mhm.
they had moved around a lot when she was growing up. There's 8 siblings in her family.
Wow.
And then
That's-
my dad had one sibling, and he grew up with an alcoholic father and a mother who divorced his father when he was 12 years old. And he basically went to work and took care of his baby sister and his mom
Mhm.
and kind of took care of them from the time. So he had worked literally his whole life.
Mm.
Like he's very quiet, even man. I saw him lose his temper twice, maybe in my whole life. Like he just was so even. But their discipline was about, right and wrong. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. And, we live by the golden rule. That's
I
part of,
love that.
Yes.
that was how we grew up.
That
was
is
just our family. Yeah.
That is.
What was mealtime like as a kid?
We ate meals together. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. She fixed breakfast before we left for school. She had dinner on the table when we got home, and everybody ate together. Probably until my brothers got to be older teenagers, and then they were off doing their thing. They had once they had cars and stuff. That was
hard
over.
to hold them down. Then.
Yeah, but yeah, we did. I mean, pretty much grew up with her just it's funny because my dad worked at a plant. He made good money, which I would have never known that because growing up I thought we were poor. Like Mom would make my clothes and stuff. And remember the Azods were like super popular, and everybody wanted to go to Dillard's and buy this expensive shirt and my mom goes, "Oh no, I can make that for you." So she would make, and I was like, Mom, I can't wear that to school. It's not the same thing. Like, you don't understand. And I remember being so frustrated about them not getting it. Like, how do y'all not get that this is not? But they taught me to save. They taught me to, be careful about my spending. I mean, we went, but because of that, we had a lot of great experiences growing up. My dad took us we went to state park every year for our summer break. We went to a state park or a national park and we camped.
Nice.
Where we had one of those pop-up campers, and we, as a family, we camped, we hiked, we went to all these different, which I wish I'd appreciated more as a kid because I saw a whole lot more than what I paid attention to. I spent a lot of time in a book in the back of the car because, back then we didn't all sit with seatbelt. Like,
Right, of course.
I had a cot in the back of the big old, travel. I laid on the cot and slept and read books while we traveled instead of paying attention to what was going on around me.
Oh, boy.
But we were not going to pay for a hotel. I remember the one time my dad broke down, we paid for a hotel. We were in the desert, and it was in Arizona. It was the middle of summer. It was hot. It was 100 degrees at night. It was hot. And he broke down and got us, and we were so excited because we got to see an air-conditioned hotel room.
Wow.
But but he was not going to spend extra money on,
Right. Right.
Wow.
That's some of that Depression era.
Yeah.
stuff
My mom
hanging
would
on.
pop popcorn and hide it in our bags to go to the movie theater because we weren't buying popcorn at the movie theater.
Exactly.
That wasn't going to happen.
I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
So I
amazing.
learned I learned the value of money that way because I had parents that grew up without.
Right.
So you learn. And as you heard their story, you understood them so much
Right.
better when you
Right.
knew, like, my mom would talk about her mom stretching their meals because the only thing they had to pay my grandfather was beans and rice. And literally, they would live off of beans and rice for months at a time.
Mm.
Yes.
And that she and her siblings would go pick cotton in the cotton field and pick, vegetables and different things to earn money,
Right.
a few cents to help with money because they had to. They just didn't have anything.
I can remember parents to a degree, definitely my grandparents living through those eras.
Yeah.
And it's not till you get older, like maybe mid-teens to older, and you become aware of a lot of their habits, things they save.
Yes.
Like if they bought something from say the grocery store that had a possible reusable container, there'd be like a cabinet full of these things. And I'm like, what is that? My aunt, who's a little bit more modern, she would go, it's recycle. I go, I didn't know what that was.
You didn't even know what it was.
But now I realize
Yeah.
later she kept, foil, if something was wrapped, if it wasn't dirty, you flatten that thing out. Yeah.
That was my dad.
there-
My dad, he fixed the lawnmower so many times that the body rusted out before he would go buy another one.
Yeah.
The same thing with that Travelodge. We had this Travelodge, and by the time he went and bought a new vehicle, you could have kicked the side of that Travelodge and taken part of the side off just from the rust.
Wow.
And corrosion from the-
Wow.
I'm like, Dad, come on now.
That's
But
great.
he would
Squeezing the
have
line.
jars of bolts and
Yes.
things like, and he'd be like,
Yes.
"Oh no, we can fix it. We can fix it." He thought he could fix anything. And if I
Yes.
listened to him, I'd probably know how to put a car together at this
Right.
point. Like, he fixed all his cars. He'd make you stand out there with the flashlight while he was fixing the car. I learned how to change a tire, change my oil,
Mhm.
check my fluids in my car.
I love
A
it.
lot of
Thanks
home
to my
repair too.
dad.
I bet you there wasn't
Oh,
too many.
yeah.
Too
Oh,
many.
he did everything. Yeah.
Guys,
My
people came
brothers
in.
both know how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could do construction if they wanted
That's
to.
awesome.
So they were in Arkansas
They started out in
and
Arkansas.
they came to San Antonio.
Actually,
to
they
get
came
you.
to Port Arthur. They moved to Port Arthur, Texas, so my dad could work at Texaco.
Okay, so how did they get you from San Antonio?
So they went to the Methodist Mission Home. So the Methodist
Okay.
Mission Home was in San Antonio. So
Okay.
that's how we got to San Antonio.
Just wanted to draw that together.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's how they got.
So they were already living in Southeast Texas.
Mhm.
And that's how you
Yeah,
got to Southeast
Southeast
Texas.
Texas.
Now it all makes sense.
So
yeah.
was there
So he was
ever a
working for
time that
Texaco.
as a family y'all moved back to Arkansas? Or you pretty much stayed here.
We stayed here, but we visited Arkansas all the time because
Gotcha.
both my parents' relatives were all in Arkansas. So
Okay.
we go to. I had an aunt and uncle who had a ranch, and we would go to their ranch all the time. And I loved him. He was the best storyteller ever. He'd been a principal at a school, and he he named all his cows, like they would follow him around like puppy dogs, you know. And but we loved going up there, and so I spent a lot of time in Arkansas. But my parents had met in college in Arkansas, and that's how they ended up together. But it's interesting. So this is probably important because this really is part of our story as to why I think all of us were givers because of the way our parents were. So my mom graduated at 17, moved out on her own, was working at J.C. Penney's and putting herself through college. And then her younger sister, Ruth, graduated from high school, and they couldn't afford to both go to college. So my mom stayed working at Penney's, moved her sister into her one studio apartment with her in the city, and she helped put her through college.
Wow.
And she met my dad because my aunt at the time ends up her boyfriend, who later became her husband, brought over my dad on a double date. And he said later when he saw my mom, he knew that was who he was going to marry.
Wow.
And she said, yeah, I thought he was crazy. He told me after 2 weeks he loved me. And I thought, this guy's nuts.
Oh, man.
Obviously not that nuts.
But
Nuts for her,
they
maybe.
married. They got married, and they
It's
stayed
so-
married for over 50-something years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And so she let him prove it for 50 something years.
She did. She did. They got married on his birthday, and I always told him, well, that's because you didn't want to forget your anniversary.
Yeah, there you
He
go.
said, no, she was my birthday present.
Your birthday
Oh,
present.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they were great. But that's the kind of giving. That's how my parents were. Like
Yes.
they were those kind of people.
Yeah.
My aunt went through a horrible divorce. She had 4 kids at home, and her husband had been my dad's best friend, really. And this man had an affair, left my aunt with these 4 kids. And she wasn't working at the time. She had to go back. She had to go to work. And my parents paid her mortgage so that they didn't lose the house, so they could stay in
Wow.
the house until
Wow.
she.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of legacy that my parents left
so
us.
generous.
That's amazing.
That is. And you know, you and your siblings got a front row seat
Yeah.
to see all that, because
Yeah,
probably
that's right.
by the time those things were happening, y'all were aware. Kids are old enough to be aware. And
Well, I really didn't know that until later. They never told us that. I didn't know that until I was an adult, actually.
About
They
the
never said
mortgage?
anything, but
Yeah.
nobody had ever said a word about it.
oh wow,
So
Wow.
we didn't know that till a lot later.
yeah,
That's awesome.
that is.
But that's a true giver's spirit
It
too.
is. It is.
Like so many times people talk about how they'll help someone else or give to someone else, but they don't really help or give because they have an expectation. They want to hold it over their
Right.
head, or they want
Right.
to remind them, remember that time I did that for you?
Right.
Yeah,
That's not helping.
right.
That's not
Yeah.
giving.
You know, it is
That's-
something, and we talk a lot in a lot of our culture recordings about things missing in society, and pure
Mhm.
benevolence is one of them.
Yeah.
You know, most people have this exchange
That's
way of
right.
doing
You owe
things.
me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a place for that, like maybe in the professional world,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's okay. But when it comes to actually helping people, I mean, it's pure benevolence. It's just
Yeah.
pure give.
When both
Yeah.
parties enter an agreement
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one is borrowing from the other, then
Mhm.
yes, there's a debt.
right,
But
Mhm.
when you offer something to someone,
Mhm.
right.
that's not debt.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's a gift,
That's
and
right.
it's finished.
Right.
Yeah.
And there can be sound
Yeah.
giving. I mean, if I've given to things, and then the people who were basically administrating those those resources kind of fell out of way, you know, fell out of
Mhm.
favor. I'm like, okay, I don't know that that's a healthy thing for me to give. I'm enabling some bad
Mhm.
behavior here,
Yes.
and that happens sometimes. But most places are really good, you know. Kind of
Yeah.
you know and we'll talk soon about where you landed as a career. I mean, proven institution, you know,
Yeah.
and there's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
And churches are a lot of those as well. And so, if you,
Yeah.
I think most of our audience are really, they're good people, they're good
Yeah.
givers, and they have found those few charities that they can
Yeah.
link to. Say, okay, that's mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that one. You know,
Yeah.
we should all have at least 2 to 3 ministries that are just ours
Yeah.
that we can share with
That's
us. You don't have to save the whole world, but if I can do this
Yeah.
one thing
Yeah.
annually, I want to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, so great story. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty amazing.
Miss Laura, when you were a kid, How were you in school? How did you do grades wise? I mean, we knew you were going to have to go pick a switch if you did something
I was
too
an
bad.
A/B student. I was
That's pretty
not.
good.
I was not like top of the line. Most of my friends were A students, and they didn't. My best friend, who's still my best friend to this day, we've been best friends since we were in second grade, and she, wouldn't crack a book and would make straight A's.
Good
Nice.
night.
Well, you knew how to
I was
pick
that
good
kind of
friends.
I was that kind of person that had to study and study and study and hoped I was going to make the B or maybe the A. So that was kind of me.
Mm.
Which now I look back and I go, I probably had ADHD and just didn't know it. But anyway,
Had? Like, I don't know if that goes away.
no, it doesn't go away.
Because
It doesn't go away. And
I'm
it's-
blessed with it
But
myself.
I've learned though over time, one of my coworkers diagnosed me with that, who's a therapist. He goes, you have ADHD. I said, yeah, I know now. I do, but I didn't know back then.
And all of my letters are capitalized, emphasized, and they vibrate
Yeah.
like this. Like,
Yeah, but they
It
were,
might be
but,
his next test.
but you knew stuff had to be done. Schoolwork had to be
Yes.
done. School
Right.
was important.
Yes.
Like there was never, I remember I was struggling in algebra. I'm not a math person. I have to use math a lot now, but I was not a math person back then. And algebra was really hard for me.
Mm.
And
why they got to put letters in there?
I don't know.
I mean, what is that?
It's just confusing. It is. And so my mom, though, they were so big on me passing that class that had been a teacher and taught in algebra school. It took her tutoring me and my other best friends, I'm still friends with to this day, that we were high school friends. She would coach me right before my test. We had PE together right before my test, algebra test, and she would coach me right before my
That's
test to remind me, okay, these are the things you need to remember.
Oh,
and that is the
boy.
only reason I'm telling you I passed algebra.
That's
That is the
great.
only way I
I
passed
mean,
algebra.
she's as fresh as it can be walking into that test. My best algebra teacher, and I'm sure I had fine teachers. I probably wasn't the best student, but I was in college and it was the last math class I was going to take. I put it off to the end. And I was so nervous about it because for those of you that may want to help teach your children math, he wrote at the top of the chalkboard like a border, like you would put wallpaper on your house.
Yeah.
And he said, rule number one, rule number two, rule number, just like you're learning a board game. He said, I'm going to
Wow.
leave them up there. He said, and at any given time, if you're struggling, I'll look at what you're doing. I go, refer back to rule number three. And because if you master that one, then he'll move on. And I made a B in college algebra.
That's awesome.
Well, because of the way it was
Teacher.
taught.
It was the teacher.
It was a brilliant method. So when
Yeah.
my children were growing up and they were getting into higher maths, I said, well, let me show you a little something
Yeah.
fun that I learned before you were even born. And it worked. I mean, I think
that's awesome.
yes. And some people are just have an affinity for it. But for those that didn't, I needed a better tactic.
Oh, I didn't think I was going to graduate from college because of the algebra class I had to take. In fact, honestly, I think it was a gift. I think she gave it to me because it was my last semester. I was taking 21 hours that semester, and I was like,
She liked you.
she liked me. And I had to go to her so many times. Oh, look, I don't get it. I think she was finally just like, look, you're going to be a social worker. I'm passing you. Like, you got to.
She had pity on you, and
And I passed with a D.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know she was going to pass me. I thought she'd fail me. So I'm sitting up in the audience at graduation watching my friends walk, and my name's on the thing. I didn't know I graduated
That's
until that
awesome.
day. And
That
I
is
was like,
great.
oh, she passed me.
Oh,
So we did a
wow.
little,
Okay.
we did a family graduation in my friend's backyard.
Yes.
And
Well, good for you.
so,
When I taught school, especially kids who struggled in subjects, and they would struggle on the test, I go, hey, busy work's your buddy. I will pass you if you'll do all the homework. I
yeah,
guarantee you'll make a 70 or better if you'll just, I had it mapped.
yeah,
If you'll just do the homework,
yeah.
don't worry about the test. That may be a little bit of bonus points, but busy work's your buddy. Come on
Right.
now. And so
That's right.
the kids that picked up on it, man, they stayed eligible for all their activities. I said,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
That's
Yeah.
pretty smart as
Yeah.
a professor.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
is.
good idea to
Yeah.
tell them that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To teach them that it's possible.
Mhm.
They're not fearing the coming test.
That's right.
They have control because if they just stay in the game,
That's right.
Just stay in
Because
the
a
game.
lot of it's a head game. That
Yeah,
you
it
get so
is.
nervous. You get so nervous that you stress
Right.
yourself out, and then you
Certainly.
can't remember anything.
Exactly. You definitely take yourself out of the
Yeah.
game, of
For sure.
whether it's class or work or sports or whatever,
Yeah.
definitely psych yourself out. So
Yeah.
there's some good techniques out there. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah,
well, when you were in school,
Yeah.
I don't know, young, let's say fifth grade, like 11, 12 years old, something like that, sixth grade. What did you want to be when you grew up? What did you dream about?
I knew I wanted to work. I knew I probably wanted to work with kids. Like I always loved kids. Like I was always helping out in the nursery at church. And so I loved babies, so I kind of knew I wanted to do that. But I had started about fifth grade is when I started. My mom let me take art from this art teacher in town. And I kind of fell in love with it. And I really thought, well, I kind of want to be an art. Like that was I started thinking, maybe I want to do art, So I did go with that until almost college. And then I got to college and I did art all through high school. I was in the art club. My favorite teachers were my art teachers growing up. And, but then I got close to my senior year and I was like, I'm not good enough at this to make money. So I better rethink what I want to do.
That's pretty astute observation. Just to have that realization that young in life. Most of us are not that, aware,
right?
That's a grandiose idea.
I realized I was like,
that's pretty smart.
I'm probably not as good at this as if I want to earn a living, this is probably not the way I want to go, which I still like art. I still like to sketch and draw and stuff, but it's more of a pastime thing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. And, and we'll talk about career here a little bit also, but I know you're coming up on retirement. Well, that could definitely, with that free time, that'd be a part of it.
Yeah, it would be fun. Yeah.
But that's interesting. We, having coached a lot, you talk to a lot of athletes and they all have these grand aspirations. And then you're hoping it's them, but somebody has to say, do you really think your college?
Yeah, think you're gonna,
I know you love to play college basketball, but did you like 5'8"? Okay,
yeah,
let's think this through, or
That's
whatever.
right.
I don't know how many Spud Webbs there were.
Not many. That's right. Very few. He could he could dunk. Yeah.
I can't dunk.
Yeah,
I can grab the rim.
He can grab the rim.
Well,
he can maybe dunk a softball or a volley.
I could do that.
There you go.
Well, that's something.
I think I dunked a basketball twice in my life.
Hey, you're better than most.
I was going to say that's more than a whole lot of people.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. So to be that self-aware and no one have to come to you and go, sweetie, I don't know if art's, you're like, no, I can talk to myself. I got this, And especially if you go into if you have an art contest, you look around and you're like, these are really good, and sometimes you have to have those very honest moments. So that's good. Yeah, but it also probably sets you up to talk very honestly with your kids. If they had little grand ideas, you can go, well, let's talk about that. Let's just see how that might work out.
We'll see how that works.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
that's good stuff.
That is good stuff.
So you then you transitioned from the artist thing to
and some of that I did through my work. So I was in two different things that really probably pushed me toward my career. One was Girl Scouts, and I learned a lot in Girl Scouts.
How far did you go in Girl Scouts?
I earned my Gold Award, which is equal to the Eagle.
Wow.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because I had some boys that went through scouting. They didn't make it all the way to Eagle, but I was curious what the end result is for girls. Like, what is the?
It's called a Gold Award, and so it's the same thing as you have to come up with a plan and do a big project. But the thing about Girl Scouts was I learned how to make have relationships. I learned how to swim. I learned how to. I got my swimming instructors. I earned that through them and canoeing. And so I became a counselor. And after high school, I became a camp counselor and I taught swimming lessons. I did lifeguarding, things like that. But because of the outdoor things I learned, I had some great experiences that I probably wouldn't have had without that. Like I went to a project called the Tennessee Valley Authority and stayed for 2 weeks. I learned how to sail. We went spelunking and caving.
Wow.
And I learned how to rappel and climb.
What is spelunking, if you would tell the audience,
So that's like
please?
caving. So you go, you rappel on a rope down into a cave, and then they gave us a map and we had to find our way out
I love it.
of the
Wow.
cave. So that I learned so many different experiences I probably would have never had I not done that, you know. And then the other thing I was really big in was my church youth group. Like my youth pastor was dynamic and my youth counselor was dynamic. And I really, probably at 14, you know, I had made a commitment before then, but it wasn't until I was 14 in that group that I really feel like I got set. Like I really knew what a real relationship with Christ was like. But it took till that age for me to really, really get it.
Sure. And there's some natural maturities that have to happen. You know, when folks come in, say at about a certain age, they want to bring their kids in and 12, 13, 14. But right about that era is when it's like some of the final veils get pulled and we're like, oh, there's a real world out there. You know, there's some good people and some bad people and some this and that. And so when we're searching for a sense of safety, salvation, same thing, then if there's already a good relationship with Christ, it's just a nice even segue for a lot of kids. But back to the scouting thing, what an endorsement. If your kids are looking for activity, something to be a part of that where they will learn things that they will probably never know, you know, just by TV and internet and what have you. Think of scouting. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I learned to canoe. I've canoed and kayaked rivers. We went to Canada and canoed the lakes in Canada.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And it was beautiful.
What
in
an
Ottawa.
amazing set of experiences. That's just amazing.
It was, I love that. I mean,
I know that there's an American, like the BSA and the Girl Scouts, I'm sure too, but I think there's similar groups all around the world. I know like Boy Scouts actually started in England. Yeah. And I'm sure Girl Scouts weren't too far behind. So there could even be some international, like you said, you know, going to other countries. But
I think I learned to appreciate like the outdoors and it was good for me because I wasn't good at team sports. Like I unfortunately was not the most coordinated person in the world. And so I did not excel at team sports. Yeah. So being able to accomplish things in individual sports, like, you know, going down the rapids in a canoe and doing those kind of things, that's where I got some of my self-confidence and those kind of things from, because I sure didn't get it from, I was the nerd in school. I was not like in the popular group. I had friends in the popular group. I had friends from every group. I had friends from the drama group, the band group, and the popular group, but I was not that person. I was very insecure. In fact, part of the reason when I was 14, it made such a switch for me was I was very good at cutting other people down and giving out insults because that was my way of protecting myself. If I insult them before they insult me, then and I realized during a Bible study one night that we were reading some scripture about the way we treat others and the way it makes them feel and I realized I was doing that. And I thought, I've got to quit doing that. Like, that's not okay. Like, this is a problem. You realized that young? Yeah, at 14, I was like, this is all, like, I'm treating people awful. Like, I didn't know that that's why I did that back then. I mean, I know now why I did that back then. I didn't know why. I was always like kind of being, you know, and it was kind of funny. People laughed and it was kind of, you know, I was snarky and but I realized that that was the first time I really realized I was hurting other people, I think. I think before then, I just thought it was funny. It was cute. It was, you know, that was my way of kind of trying to fit in. But then I realized, this didn't make other people feel good. No. Like, this is not okay.
I'm impressed.
I am.
That is just amazing that you had the wherewithal to understand that at that early of an age.
But that's a God thing. I totally think
but you had to receive it. Right. And I wasn't ready to receive that until I was 40. So you did good. I was living that same way and denying it most of my life. Yeah. And you know,
the light of the world will enlighten us if we're letting.
Well, it was, and it was. I had some key experiences in that group that really grew me, and it was my youth minister was an amazing guy. His name was Rob Renfro. I'll never forget him. And most of the group was older teenagers and that I looked up to, which helped because that really influenced me a great deal, is to see them. And he really developed that group spiritually. Like, it was not just the fun group where everybody showed up, and we did do that. We had fun. We did a lot of fun things together, but he really pushed us spiritually to grow. And I can remember one of the other things that helped me believe as well is we were in a prayer group one night, and one of our girls was in Indianettes, which is a, drill team. And she found out she had arthritis, and she was having a lot of pain, and she was very worried about it. She's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing this my senior year, and I'm so scared that and will y'all pray for me? And we were all like, yeah, we're going to pray. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen this happen, but we all started praying, and halfway through the prayer, she just starts crying. When we finished the prayer, she said that halfway through that prayer, she felt this warmth start at the top of her head and flow through her entire body. And she said, all of my pain just left me.
Wow.
That was the first time I had experienced what healing looked like through prayer. Like, it was like, and it was not like this big thing that happened in front of this big audience or some big pastor that, it was just a simple bunch of teenagers that really just poured out their heart to God and said, we really want our friend to be healed. And that was amazing to me. That was a key switch for me. Like, God's not just real, he's powerful.
It's supernatural.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, it's supernatural.
Right.
That's when I really got the supernatural thing. Like, this is more than just reading words out of this book. And it was like, there's something to this. This is big.
I love that.
Wow,
Thank you for sharing that. I believe that
awesome
is going to
story.
influence and inspire many people who hear that story.
Yeah, I mean, it was big. It was a huge change for me.
That story needs to keep being told.
Yeah.
I know you probably have told it to many, but keep telling it because it was real. You were there.
It was real.
Yeah.
And
it was real.
And your credibility just adds to the fact, and her too. I hope she went on to have a nice, healthy life.
She became a minister.
There it is.
Wow.
It really got in her.
She became a Methodist minister.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That moment might have done it for her.
Yeah.
Laura, where did you go to college?
So I went to Lamar. I was a commuter college kid, and I was doing. I actually wanted to do. I thought I was going to go into occupational therapy. That's what I kind of wanted to do, right? And then I took my first biology class, and I went, "Oh, I am not going to make it in this." It's all this memorization, and as an ADHD person, that's not really our thing. And so I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is my first class. And I'm thinking, I don't even know if I can pass this class. How am I going to?
The first day.
Yeah, I was like, how am I going to, right?
Yes.
And, but the reason is, I need to tell you this story because it tells you why I even thought about doing that. So we had an experience as a family that really rocked our world. My middle brother, Keith, and his wife, Patty, their first child was born, and his name was Brian Christopher, and they lived in a trailer, in a mobile home. My brother was a truck driver, and when Brian was born, everything was okay, but 2 weeks in, he spiked a fever. They had to take him in, and there was complications. And when they did some testing, they found out he actually had a form of Down syndrome that was affecting his heart.
Oh, word.
And so all of a sudden our whole life changed. All these medical bills they were going to have to deal with, and we had to start going to Houston and getting him looked at. He was going to have open heart surgery. So they moved in with us.
Wow.
And he had to be treated a certain way to help him to swallow because he was very tiny. He was so tiny, my mom literally made baby clothes patterns for him for his clothes because he was so tiny.
Goodness.
He wasn't growing because his heart was having to work overtime just to eat. So anyway, so they wanted to put off surgery till he gained a certain amount of weight until he was a certain age, and they just couldn't do it. He was not progressing, and they said, look, we're going to have to do open heart surgery. And so at 6 months, 6.5 months, they did open heart surgery. And we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House in Houston while he was there. And the morning of my 17th birthday, they called us in the hotel room and said, y'all need to come up here. So we get there, and I remember hearing my sister-in-law, the cry and the scream that came from that woman's heart from losing her child. I will never forget. Like, I will never get that out of my head. Like, I was down the hall and I could just hear the pain that she was going through when they told her that they had lost him. And so we went through the loss of a baby and he died on my 17th birthday, which was really hard for me and really affected me for a while. I had a hard time. But one of the other things that came out of that was God did a couple of things to me during that time that were very interesting. And one was, I was devastated at first, and I thought, I was kind of mad. I was mad at God. I was like, really? You're going to take their first baby, this little innocent baby? And we were in a Bible study, and at one of the Bible studies previous, he had got us to write down a prayer of something that we wanted. And I had written down, it was after Brian had died, and I'd written down that I wanted my sister-in-law to have a healthy baby boy. That's what I put it, a healthy baby boy. The next child that she had was a baby boy. And when he was born, his name was Josh. When Josh was born, as soon as he was born, she said, go, I want you to take him back for testing. And the doctor said, Patty, if this was my child, I would take him home right now and love him, and he's fine. There's nothing wrong with that baby. He's okay. There's nothing wrong with this baby. And there wasn't. He was totally healthy. That was the first time I felt like I really experienced God answering prayer, like really like that for me, like personally answering prayer. So that was pretty impactful for me. And then the other thing out of that was super impactful was my sister-in-law was really upset, and she and I were having a conversation one day. She was just grieving, the loss of Brian. And this did not come from me. When this came out of my mouth, I knew it was not me talking, because I wouldn't have been able to say it. But what I said was, don't you think God knows how bad your heart hurts, because he had to give up his only son and watch him die? And he didn't deserve it. And I said, he knows your pain, Patty. He knows your pain. And I knew that was God. That did not come from me. That totally was a God moment that he just spoke
through you. Wow.
And that was another life-changing experience for me. And that's why when I started college, I thought I was going to do occupational therapy because of Brian. But then after I realized, you're never going to pass biology classes. So that's when I said, okay, social work. I can work with people and not have to do all the high-end biology stuff. So that's how I ended up in social work.
Gotcha.
Well, I'm grateful for that
Absolutely
venture that you chose. So did you work through college, or did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So through college, I worked as a Methodist youth counselor, as a youth director for the Methodist Church. And I would teach Bible study on Wednesday nights and work with the kids on Sundays. And then I would not go to school during the summer, because I would do full-time youth ministry during the summer. So it took me 5 years to graduate because of that. And then I worked for another church, a Presbyterian church had an after-school program. And from 3 to 6, I worked for the Presbyterian church. I'd go pick up the kids after school. Over. No, I just worked, I went up.
You affiliated with those people?
I did. I did. I'm affiliated with a lot of different groups.
I'm sure.
We joke a lot about that.
About crossing over.
He's from Church of Christ.
Yeah.
I'm from non-denominational, like it.
Yeah. Well, I started out Methodist. I started out Methodist. Then my parents moved into Church of Christ,
Okay.
and then I went to non-denominational, and so I've kind of gone the gamut. And my best friends were all Catholics, so I've been to several
Oh, gosh.
masses. And
Yep.
if I wanted to go to all the Catholic
Yeah.
CYO dances, I had to go with my CYO friends.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of the Catholicism stuff. I mean, I've done it. I feel like I've done it all. And then when I started working for the group I work with, a lot of my staff are Black. And so I started going to a lot of the Black churches to events and things, weddings
Sure.
and funerals and
Absolutely.
events that they did. And so, so I I appreciate the gamut of
Yeah,
worship. I
absolutely.
really do. I love it.
Yes.
It's just an enrichment. It enriches who you
Yes.
are.
I love
It
that.
enriches your experience, I feel like.
Yes, it does.
If you're open-minded enough. I mean, I always think when we end up, didn't God say when we end up there, we're all going to be one
Yes.
church anyway?
Yes.
So I feel like the split is all us. It has nothing to do with
Thank
them.
you.
It has nothing to do
There
with
is
them.
no organized religion
Yeah.
mentioned anywhere
That's right.
in the Word of God.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
he says we'll all be one church. So I figured, we're all going to end up together eventually anyway.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
that's just my belief.
I appreciate you sharing that. And one of the
Yes.
greatest joys of my life, especially as an adult, has been the experience of going into those other
Yeah.
houses of worship
Yeah.
Right.
and seeing that they're not evil.
That's right.
They're not in here doing all that stuff that we were insinuated that
That
they
they
do.
do,
Like
yeah.
it's not like
That's
that.
right. That's
And
right.
I, of course, was raised by people who, they found one way and that's the only way type of thing. But over time, I've noticed, and these are people like even my parents' ages. My mom's in her 80s, dad's
Mhm.
deceased, but a little bit younger, if you will. And over time, they work with this host of folks that just worship a little differently. Next thing you know, they're going to classes, maybe a Tuesday
Mhm.
night,
Yeah.
but they'll go to Sunday back to where their people are. That's
The
their
chosen
people.
person.
Yeah.
Well, that's their friends, their family,
Yeah.
the
Right.
people that they want to kind of do that version.
The
But
foundation.
they find all these other versions out there.
That's right.
And I can remember a few of the little church ladies get uptight about it. And I go, well, you're missing out because
Yeah.
have you asked her what she's studying? Well, no. I said, why don't you ask? I bet it's
Yeah.
pretty. And next thing you know, it's all the books. And from there, it's kind of cool because then we start getting the Lifeways and the other books
That's
that came out,
right.
the other stores. Well, they all
Mhm.
went shopping at the same stores. I'm like, they're all studying the same thing, right? So, and it's
I love that.
it's kind of cool how it all eventually just spread out a little
Yeah.
bit. So maybe I don't know that we'll ever have one big church in one city, but that's okay. I think it's okay that we can do that private with our close friends and family.
Yeah, that's right.
But I
That's
don't think
right.
we should ignore our other friends by any
Yeah.
means. There's
Yeah.
always something to learn. And but I've read the last book several times, and the Big Heavenly Church is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And I look forward to it
Yeah.
when it's time. I'm not in a hurry.
You're not in a hurry right
Yeah, but when it's time,
I heard it said one
Yeah.
time by someone. I don't even remember where I heard this, but I've repeated it. And people in these religious sects,
Mhm.
factions within Christianity, or even in other faith practices, they look at other, like Church of Christ might look at Assemblies of God and say they're doing this part wrong or they're doing that
Yeah.
part wrong. And
Yeah.
if somebody leaves Church of Christ and goes over to the
Yeah.
other side, then they say, oh, they're making room for sin.
Mhm.
Like that's
Yeah, yeah.
that's one of the things that
Yeah.
they say. And I heard the speaker, whoever it was, I wish I could remember, and he was like, no, they're not making room for sin. They're making room for him
yes,
Mhm.
because he is not those practices.
That's
that's
right.
right.
Yeah.
He has room for everybody.
That's right.
It was kind of like when Jesus walked in. And when the
Yes.
Pharisees said, you got to open your mind up a little bit. It's
That's
more
it.
than just these rules.
That's
It's
it.
more than that.
But I love that
Yeah, me too.
part of your story. Thank you for sharing
Right.
that.
Well, and so I think part of the reason I worked, so I paid for part of my school. This is how my parents did it because my dad was not.
I think that's right. I
Paid
think
for,
that's
but I do.
wonderful.
I totally believe this just should have.
Yeah.
You should do it. So they paid for half, and I paid for half. So he paid for my gas and my books, and I paid for my each semester for the classes. And so I did the after school program, and then I did the youth ministry, and then back in the day we had real books.
Mm.
And so the bookstore would hire extra people at the beginning and the end of the semester to process all the books. So I would do that job on those times to earn some extra money. And
You were a hustler.
That's the word I was thinking.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's awesome, though. I mean, there was nothing you were too good for. You'd make time and do what you needed to do.
Even if it's
to
a
make it work.
one-off, twice a year, hey, I put cash in my pocket.
yeah.
Yeah, and no, I love that. I remember mowing yards, just dragging my dad's lawnmower up and down the street, and
Yeah.
I kept that going all the way through high school. And my friends were like, "You cut yards?" I go, "Where do you think this cash comes from? They don't give it to me, man." You know, so when I would buy tickets for concerts, or I was in Houston, we go to Astros games or
Yeah.
Rockets games, and I said, "My parents, they don't give me money for that. That's my cash, man."
That's right.
So eventually, a few of them picked up on it, like, well, maybe I'll get a few yards. I go, it won't hurt you. It's what's your a Saturday, half your Saturday, you're done.
Trying
You know?
to get age groups now to realize, like, even my own children, like my own boys, I love them, but like, I'm like, guys, I was mowing. We had to move back into my mom's house at one point, and I used to mow that yard when my dad taught me how to mow at 10. I was mowing the full yard at 12, and I couldn't get my boys, okay, you do the front yard and he does the backyard. That's all y'all have to do. I'm like, really?
Wow.
Really? It's
Wow.
like pulling teeth. I'm like, why are y'all so adverse to doing a little
Right.
extra? Like, I don't get it. And I see it a lot today. I think that was something that was instilled in me. That came from my parents.
For sure.
Their teaching and what I saw them do. Like, that really did. I mean, I never even thought about, like you saying, that's a hustle. I never even thought of it that way. It's just, I just thought of it as that's what you do. You do what you got to do, period.
Yeah. And maybe there were those moments, I presume, if you wanted something, your folks like, well, what are you going to do to get it? Next thing you know, you're babysitting or you're doing all
That's
kinds
right.
of things, and
Yeah.
and I put it together. I don't know. Things just come to me because I want what I want. I want the Izod shirt from Dillard's.
That's
So
right.
I don't want the mom's on.
right.
The mom's on. I want the Izod. That's right.
My mom made my clothes too. And I
I'd be
mean,
like,
God bless her.
Mom.
No.
She did the best she could. Oh my gosh. And we had family photographs with all of us wearing
those.
mom made clothes.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I get it. I totally
And all of us
get it.
matching.
And then and as a kid, you're just
Classic.
oh
Yes.
Oh,
Really?
Yes. So much.
Yeah.
But to relate to your story, I was mowing grass when I was second grade.
yeah.
And I understood that it was expected of me to mow our grass,
Yeah.
Right.
That's all right.
And then I started mowing everybody else's
And you
grass.
start getting
Yes.
money.
Yeah. And then I started hiring little boys to come work with me.
Yeah.
And then I started mowing more
Then you
grass.
learn how to be a
Yes.
business,
That's
be a
right.
businessman.
That's where that part of me all began.
Yeah, that's right.
But so you hustled your way through college. You've got an entrepreneurial spirit about you. That's pretty amazing.
It is.
And then you obviously, you looked down at your phone at graduation and realized that you made it. Even though you weren't out there with the rest of them, you were in the audience.
Yep.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
What was your first experience in the full-time workforce?
Oh, that's an interesting story too, because I actually started out, because I think I told you that I had gotten my lifeguarding and swimming instructor. I earned all that through Girl Scouts. Well, so right before where I ended up working, I started working for the Y on 9th Avenue, and I was managing their pool. So I was doing the schedules, I was guarding, and I was cleaning the pool area and all that. I was doing all that. And a grandparent had passed away, and we had to leave. And so I told one of my lifeguards, I said, and back then, the way that their system, the filters work, is they had these huge vats with sand in them, and the water was filtered through sand, right? And so I told him, look, you can't, when you go to backwash, you have to do this and this. If you don't do that, it will break the laterals and all the sand will dump into the deep into the pool.
And it's a mess to get it out.
Exactly what happened. That's exactly what he did. So I come back, and in the bottom of the deep end of the pool, it's full of sand.
Oh.
And, you know, the YMCA is a nonprofit. So I'm down there in scuba gear, which I'm not scuba certified. I knew how to do it because my brother was scuba certified and I used to go with him sometimes. So I'm down there in scuba gear, vacuuming all this sand. And I'm down there. And at one point, I'm thinking, I'm getting paid $6 an hour to do this. Like, I've got to go out and get a real job and use my.
Yeah.
So, so I heard that Buckner Children and Family Services was hiring. They said, they're always hiring over there. Go call them. One of my friends, one of my social worker friends told me that. So I said, okay. So I went in to interview for a job as a case manager for Buckner.
Okay.
And that's how, and so I started at Buckner. I was 24, started at Buckner. And at that time we had a residential program. So we had a close to 60 kids living on the campus. Almost all of them were junior high and high school kids, some younger ones. And they were tough. They were some tough kids. Like we had you talk about somebody that came from a kind of conservative background. Boy, I jumped into the deep end quick. I mean, these kids were like gang members, kids that had committed, crimes. We had probation kids mixed in with kids that were coming out of psych hospitals that had bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder. There were fights every day. I remember my first day there. We had gone to dinner with the kids and we were coming out and that they were supposed to go back to their house. And I told one of the older teenage boy, I said, hey, you need to go back to your house. And he comes right up to you. I remember he stands over me because most of them are taller than me. They're, 6 foot, 285-pound
big old boy.
Men.
Yeah.
Almost, they're big. And I'm thinking, oh, God, what's this guy going to do? And he said, really? You're telling me to go to the house? And I'm like, yeah, I need you to go to your house now. We're done. And thank goodness this guy that ends up later becoming one of my best friends, his name was Boomer. Boomer, we call him. Big old guy. He was a house parent for the boys' house. Guzman, get over here and get in the house. He walks in. I was like, oh,
thank you, Lord.
He was testing your mettle.
The Lord got me out of a few really hairy situations during my time there because there were a few times I overcalculated my ability to handle something that He had to get me out of. That happened on more than one occasion. But I had the older girls' house, so I had 16 older girls, high school girls, and they were rough. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot of stuff. And our house parents at the time for that house was this retired Baptist minister and his wife, very conservative, sweet. And I remember I was trying to connect with the girls one night. We were outside in the backyard and they were teaching me some dance. We were out there dancing and they had the music going. I guess it was a little too loud for them. And which he also didn't believe in dancing.
They don't like dancing. No.
And so I remember Miss Shackling came out there and she's like, y'all got that music too loud. And she didn't know I was out there with them. My back was to her off the side turn. She was, oh, Miss Laura, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were out here. And I was so embarrassed. I thought, oh boy, here it goes.
Yeah.
But I ended up having a great relationship with them and loving them. They were great people. And but my first group of girls from that group, I still to this day, there are 5 of them that I'm still in touch with. I've watched them totally grow up, have their own families, go through their own lives. I'm still to this day in touch with them.
That's beautiful.
From that first group.
I found something fascinating listening to you talk. This little part of your story. You went from the deep end at the Y to the deep end of your Y.
Oh, that's true.
Like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
you were in scuba gear
That's
in the
true.
deep end of this big pool
Yeah, that's true.
when you had this epiphany.
yes. Wow.
That's true.
What from the why to your why.
Yeah,
in the
that's
deep
true.
end.
So
That's-
well done.
Wow.
That's it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's well done.
That is well done.
I
That was
really
good.
enjoyed that. That was good.
And whether knowingly or unknowingly, I appreciate where your start because I get a lot of phone calls, annually, right around the graduation times. They call. These are people wanting to be professional counselors, and
Yeah.
they say, "Well, if I could pick your brain or whatever." So I let them call. We talk for a little bit. I mean, I like to get back, I suppose. And I said, "Well,
You suppose?
yeah, I said, where are you in your whatever your journey, kind of thing." And I said, "Well, if it's if you're in practicum or if it's your first job, get a tough job. Go to a hospital. Go where people really don't want to go. You may only stay a couple of years, but the edge you put on that sword, it will be priceless. Because if you try to walk into the comfortable office that I built over 30 years, you won't appreciate it. You won't appreciate it until you go through the hurt. You got to go through the stink. That's right. And so that's what you did, as a professional, unknowingly, of course, but you got thrown in, to this environment and figured out a way to not only manage it, but, work through it.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that. We had, so for the first 8 months of my time there, they had a executive director that had come from the old children's home and had moved into this children's home. She'd been there 23 years. And she had, in all, giving her everything. She was in a totally man's world as a executive director. She was one of the only females even in our system, and we were throughout the whole state of Texas. And so she had a rough time, and she was rough. She was tough. She was the toughest person I have ever worked for. She taught me a lot, but I only had to work for 8 months, and here's why. And this is terrible to even say this, and I know she's up in heaven right now. She'll probably laugh at this now, but she ran us like, we had to wear a suit, and she would look at you when you walked in. She'd look you over to see what you had on. You had to be dressed to the nines. And as women, we were wearing hose, and we had to do what they call a containment, to hold kids if they got in a fight and stuff. You have to basically wrestle them to the ground and hold them till they calm down. And we're in dresses and stuff. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, but she was just that kind of woman. And she was tough. I remember the people I worked with at the time, we were all Trekkie fans. We all liked Star Trek. So if she was so feared that if she was coming, we'd walk past each other and go, Cleon vessel approaching at 5 feet.
That's great.
And if we went into a meeting, we'd all tap our communicators shields up before we had to go into the meeting, because we wanted to put our shields up because we knew that she was gonna, she was gonna blast us for something that we did wrong, because that was kind of her thing,
Yes.
And so every morning at 8:00 in the morning, we were all Christians. We all got together and we would all have prayer time. And our clinical director at the time was not a believer, but she would slip prayer requests underneath the door for us to pray for.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
y'all made a difference on it.
And we prayed this woman into retirement, and she retired 8 months later.
Wow.
When I started, their turnover rate was 78%.
Wow.
That's how bad it was, because she's firing people left and right. We were kicking kids out left and right for doing anything because she would get mad if they did, And so then my next guy that came in, Mike Whitecotton, he came from therapeutic treatment. So Mike was like, we're going to change Buckner's reputation around here in Southeast Texas. And he said, we're going to keep every kid we get, no matter how bad they are, how terrible it is, how we're going to find a way to therapeutically keep these kids no matter what happens.
Okay.
Man, you talk about learn how to, but I'll tell you, he was right in that what we found for the most part is if you could get them past 3 months and get them over the wall, there was this wall they would hit at about 3 months, and they'd start running or doing things to get kicked out. We could get them past that wall, we could usually keep them. But these kids, you guys, when we got them, you talk about abandonment issue. This is where all of the things I had felt growing up and all of the things I struggled with really came to the surface when I did this job, because all these kids, most of them have been kicked out of 12 placements before we got them, and some of them 19 and 21 placements.
And they were young teens.
Yes.
Wow. And
so you talk about abandonment, trust issues. We had major trauma and abuse, And so But Mike pushed us to really therapeutically just face all these situations. And I grew so much. Like, I wasn't even a licensed counselor. Back then, we didn't have to be, but we were considered the counselor and case manager. We did both. And so I was leading a sexual abuse group for girls. And my only training was I went to a therapist who did groups and sat in on 2 of her groups. They handed me a couple of books, and
Good luck.
that's right.
Wow.
Talk about thrown into the deep end again. Like,
the
good
deep
luck.
end, back to the deep end
With
And
no
I'm
scuba
like-
training.
with no scuba, no gear.
And I'm like,
I've seen it done before.
That's
it's,
right.
yeah, so scary. I prayed a lot that, Lord, please don't let me mess any of these kids
That is-
up.
that
But
is-
I learned so much
Yes.
so quickly about, like, I learned some great lessons from those girls. Like I'll never forget. They're such survivors, so strong. Some of the strongest women I know. Like, I remember this one girl. She was probably one of the most sexually abused kids we had in the group. Like, she had severe trauma, like horrible things, you guys, like horrible stuff. And I remember I asked them one day, I said, like, what do you think the perpetrator should get? And she said, well, I think he should get life because that's what I got. I was like,
She ain't wrong.
no, she was
No.
right. I was like,
That's right.
heck yeah.
That's right.
Most of these men never served a day.
I know. It's the
Most
most
of them never
disgusting.
serve
is.
a day. And the
It
kids got ripped from their homes, moved all over the place. And, you know, it's just, it was hard. You learned a lot of hard lessons. I saw some of the, I learned what true evil was when I started working there because of the pain and what I saw other people as human beings could do
Yes.
to babies and children, and like things I never believed, like I couldn't even conceive in my mind
Yes.
happening to
That a person
people.
could do that.
Exactly. And
And
so
it's-
much of the general public has no idea.
No.
Oh my gosh. Like
No.
in my mind, I came from this nice home where I was never abused. I hadn't experienced any of that. And I'm thrown into this world where I have seen the worst of the worst of the worst of people. And I think, you know, people ask me sometimes about the child abuse, like, what do you think causes people to do it? And I said, there's true evil in this world. And
That's
if
right.
you don't believe that, you are strongly mistaken.
That's right.
There is true evil in this world, and it is being played out on a daily basis.
Right.
And it's happening to our children.
Mm.
It's
That
so
is-
tragic. It's
So true. And which means we cannot stop the try. We
No, you
can't throw
cannot.
them away. We have
They
to
are so
constantly doing
worried.
it.
They are so
That's right.
where I can remember this one night we were sharing, and they were telling me some really heavy, hard stuff. Like I wouldn't cry in front of them then, but I would go back
Mhm.
at night and I would literally fall apart at home. Like I would
Yeah.
just bawl myself to sleep some
Right.
nights. It was so bad.
Right.
And I remember this one girl was telling me something, and I said, babe, why aren't you sharing this with your counselor? Like they were going to
Mhm.
counseling with the professional counselor. I said, babe, why aren't you sharing that with her? And she goes, oh, she can't handle it, Miss Laura.
Oh.
And I said, well, what do you mean she can't handle it? She goes, she starts crying when I start talking.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I learned that they needed me to be able to be strong enough to handle what they had to say. And what I told myself, the way I got through that is I told myself, if they can endure having to live through it, I can endure listening to
That's
it.
right. That's right.
I can endure and listen
And
to it.
there's a lot of parts in what you just said. I don't have to live through it.
Yeah,
I can come alongside them. They're having to live it, not
Yeah.
me.
right.
I'm just speaking as a therapist now. And also, and if you want to go into the helping profession, I'm glad you're hearing this, because if you're going to do that during those moments, you got to be the toughest cat in the room. You got to be a little tougher than what they're going through in that moment.
That's right.
So that means I don't break down. I don't get that privilege.
Yeah.
That's their privilege to do
That's
that.
right.
Now, when I leave, they'll never know.
Yeah.
I've cried all the way home several
Oh,
times,
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
It's rough.
But it's so I like what you said about that, because that's how I felt too. Is I feel like the most important thing I ever did in all my time at Buckner with all of those kids, my most important moments were the moments where you just sit with them in their pain.
Yes.
You just, because you can't, there's nothing you can say to take it away. There's nothing that you're going to do or activity that you're going to do that's going to make the pain go away or going to make it less. But if you sit with them in their pain and they know they're not alone, like I can remember sitting in a closet with this kid for 45 minutes one time in total silence while she rocked in a fetal position because she had just torn up the entire room, like she had destroyed the whole room. But there's nothing even like she just needed somebody to sit with her in her pain. I have laid down underneath the bed with this other kid underneath the bed, and I've spent 45 minutes on my belly laying there talking this kid out from under the bed.
Wow.
But sometimes that, I feel like that's what God does for us. Like he tells you, you know, when he says, I will walk you through the shadow of death. He means that. Like you're not going to be alone. Like in the scariest part of your life, the shadow of death, I'm going to be there. Like you're not going to be alone. And I feel like that's what the kids needed. Like in your scariest, most traumatic moments, just know that you're not alone right now.
That's right. There's a phrase I've picked up. We were doing this community stuff. I was helping a church one time, and they've since done it, so I kept the phrase. And the phrase is, love them well.
Yeah.
And so if you have an addict in your family, well, then love them well. Well, I love the addict a little bit differently than I love the non-addict kid, but I love them both because the addict needs a different version of it. So these children who are in just, you know, the darkest of times, they needed 45 minutes of silence. That was a version of love. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes maybe they're a little bit more open to different kinds of affection, you know, like a hug or maybe an encouraging word, or maybe a confrontation, like, no, you will go to your cabin now. You know, that's a version of love. But they know it, but, you know, that's not how they're going to go, you know, hey, thanks for being tough with me. They're not going to say that till they're in their 30s and they're just like, man, you were so tough on us, and you're thinking, was I really? I thought it was kind of cool. You know, they're like, but they knew what they needed. They know what they need.
They do.
You know, and so a lot of times that's my prayerful request to God. I go, what do you know, how do you want me to love them?
Yeah.
I mean, they're sitting there and they're destroyed. You know, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? You know, and so there's been many times, like I said, even in a paid session, I've sat there for as many as 5 minutes, which doesn't sound like long, but when it's quiet.
When it's quiet, 5 minutes is a long time.
I can imagine 45 if it's like, all right, this is what we're doing. Yeah, we're going to ride this thing out until she's ready to do something different, you know. And you kind of hope, and I hate to say it's kind of when you're in those moments, and I've had a couple of moments like that, you're kind of hoping nature kicks in, like maybe they need to go to the restroom or something. And you're like, oh, good, let's open the door. Let's get some light in here. You know. So.
Now we had the door open and everything, and they had these big walk-in closets. So thank goodness it wasn't like an enclosed space. But it's just, that's the thing, and that's the thing with a lot of these kids is too, they don't, like one of my girls, I finally asked her one time, you know, you don't have to come back to this group. She never participated. Most of the time she put the hoodie over her face and she just sat in the corner and she never said a word. And I said, you really don't have to come back to group if you don't want to do this group. Like, it's okay. And she goes, no, I want to come. And I'm like, okay. And this one night we went back to the house. I walked them back to the house and she goes, would you just sit in the room with me because I can't go to sleep? And I said, yeah, I'll be glad to. I sat in the doorway of her room in a chair until she went to sleep that night. Like, she didn't need me to do anything for her. She just wanted somebody
Your presence
to just
brought
be
security
there.
to her.
She just needed somebody to just be there, you know? And I think that sometimes we don't realize what a presence.
Well, like those groups you're talking about, she was hooded with her hood on, and she was a non-participant, but she heard everything.
Yes,
exactly. And
she was absorbing. That was her participation.
That's right.
Which gave you credibility.
So, but you just don't know what God's going to. I mean, God, I saw God so many ways do so many wonderful things. A lot of these kids, you know, we have a reunion every 5 years, and this one reunion, I remember Boomer and I were standing there. We had about 150 kids came with their families. And we were both standing there looking around the room, and I said, you know what the testimony is for us? And he said, what? And I said, out of all of these kids, only 2 of them have had their children removed.
Wow.
That's very powerful.
And the rest
creating new legacy, breaking generational curses.
I was like, that says a lot. I mean, I
Yes.
said this is the win, you know. I mean, and there's really hard things too that happen.
Of
There's
course.
some hard things that you can't. It's hard to get past, but you have, those are the wins that you say, that's why I keep doing. This is why I'm there for the grace of God, you know, and that's why I take the next step, and that's why you get up and you do it again, because there are days where you think you can't.
So you got so much to be grateful for and proud of. That is just amazing.
Yes.
Like such a huge, full story. Like
Right.
now you've covered your intro into this beautiful career with Buckner, and you kind of talked about how the reunions are now.
Mhm.
So how long have you been with Buckner now?
36 years.
36 years. You just can't seem to settle down.
I
mean,
right?
You move around so much.
Mm.
So from the why to your why,
Mm-hmm.
obviously this has fit with your definite major purpose in life.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud to say that in my life, I carry a part of your legacy, because my wife and I adopted a child through Buckner
Mm-hmm.
under your tenure.
Yeah.
Mm.
So thank you for all that you do and have done. So how did you go from the induction as a social worker at Buckner to tell them what your position is now?
I'm the executive director now.
You are Klingon.
Yeah, I am.
No,
That is
you're
who I
not.
am
You're
now.
not.
She's the female Jean-Luc Picard.
There you go.
Yes.
So anyway, how did that develop? How did you go from
Yeah.
social worker to director of the entire place?
Yeah, that was totally God, because I did not want. He literally pulled me into every leadership position. I did not. I went kicking and screaming every single time. Like my first leadership position, I was only 26, and they wanted me to become a unit supervisor, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. Like all these people are older than I am. Like how am I going to do that? And Mike Whitecotton was my director still then. And then it became Randy Daniels. So Randy was my director. And he said, no, Laura, you need to, you're ready for this. You need to, I'm like, oh, I can't do it. He's like, yes, you have to do it. He said, I need you to take this position. So I moved into unit supervisor. So then I was over all the child care staff and their scheduling and HR stuff, and the principal, basically, because when the kids get in trouble and the parents get mad and they call you and say, fix them, do something with this person, or the schools calling saying your kid is acting out, come up here and handle it, you know. Then I became that person. And then I became the program director for I moved into the program director position, which was, then I was over all the programs across the board for a while. I did that for a long time. And then eventually became the executive director after several people that I worked with had moved on and moved up in the system. But I didn't want to move up. Like this is as far as high as I ever want to go. Like I don't ever want to I feel like I'm too far away from the families and kids now. Like my favorite days are, we've got an event Saturday. We're doing a family fun day. That's going to be one. That's how I reconnect with what I believe in, like being with the families and the kids and seeing them get to experience time together and experience a good. That's what keeps me going to say, yeah, this is why we do what we do.
Do you know why you made it into these different progressions of leadership? Why you transitioned from one to the next and then higher and higher? Do you know why? I know why. I'm going to tell you if you don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because I know it's God-led. I mean, I totally believe it was God-led, because when you do all these scales, the DISC assessment, and there's Christian ones out there. And on the Christian one that I did one year, I rated as high in mercy as I was in leadership. And I said, that's crazy. But here's the only reason it's like that is because the leadership part I adapted and learned. The mercy part is my natural gift. But so I don't know. I mean, I think it's because I'm fair. I'm open-minded. I really look at the whole person. Like whoever's working for me, like it's about them and who they are as a person, and I see them as a person. Like I want to lead in the way I want to be led, and I want to lead in a way that allows people to grow and to go after their own stuff so that they progress and get what they want out of life and that they do the best they can do. Like that's my win, is if I can lead in a way that encourages that person to be able to do that. That's like the win for me.
I love that.
I do too.
You operate from a place of enormous abundance. And no matter what happens, you can't run out. And life has this funny thing. God gives us life, right? It
Yeah.
comes from our Creator.
Mm-hmm.
Life seeks to express itself. And the more we submit to the abundance of life, the more God gives expression to that life through us. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
So the more we operate with humility and give ourselves over to that expression of life, the more we grow. Our world around us doesn't have a choice but to let us.
Yeah.
And you did that. You operated under that principle. It's the law of increasing return. You are constantly, you just said it.
Yeah.
I want to give to others the opportunity to be more, to become more, to do more.
Yeah.
Through me. If I can facilitate that, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That's why you got where you got.
Yeah.
You just aligned yourself with life, with God.
Yeah.
Just like you, I mean, that's so beautiful.
Yes, it is.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
It's all him. I tell you, it's all him. I'm still a lot of times that insecure kid. Sometimes it's like, why am I doing this? And every time I get in front of an audience and have to talk, I go, oh, really? Really, God, you want me to do this? But yeah, so I feel like, I think because of some of the things I've gone through in life, I appreciate things so differently now.
Right.
I look at things more differently than I ever did before. And so, because I've gone close to death, I've had that experience of having to face my own death early.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to talk about. Well, let me get you to how I got my family, and then because that really takes place before this. So I had been single. I dated a guy at 22 that I fell in love with. I really wanted to marry him back then, and he was just not. He was all over the place, and he was not willing to make a commitment. And so I moved on. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna. And so, being a social worker and working where we work, it's not give you the opportunity to meet a lot of people, right? A lot of available young men. So I was like 36 and I was still single and I was still friends with him, but I dated other people and gotten close to get married to one other guy, but it didn't happen. And then, so anyway, I remember I walked into the bookstore one day and they had a magazine called Adoption Today. I picked it up and I read it, and it was on Chinese adoption, adopting from China, adopting children from China. And I remember I called my mom, that it was like 9:00 at night. I called her after I'd read the article and I said, I think I know what I'm supposed to do. And she said, well, what is that? And I said, I think I'm supposed to adopt a baby girl from China. And she said, really? And I said, yeah, I think even though I'm 36, I'm not married yet. Maybe God just wants me. I want children. Maybe this is how he wants me to grow my family. And she said, well, that's interesting because there's a couple at our church that is fixing to go to China in the next 3 weeks to adopt their child. You should talk to them. So I did. And I went through their agency and I got all the way through, got my dossier approved and got everything approved. And Kent, who I ended up marrying, we started going out and kind of spending time together again. He goes, I think we should try. This is how romantic my ex is. He said, he's so funny. I think we should try this thing. I said, what thing? He goes, like, get married. That was like
oh my gosh.
I'm like, okay. But anyway, I said, well, I have to adopt Maylin first because I've already got all the paperwork done. It takes a long time. I guess a year and a half later.
Yeah.
Paperwork is horrendous. And I said, so he and my mother and I flew to China together. We adopted my baby girl, I moved in with him right before we left to go to China. I adopted our baby girl in China alone as a single person. We come back, and then he and I go to readopt her. This is how God works. We go to readopt her, and the woman that was in our group was a lawyer, and she offered us a discount. And guess where she practices out of? San Antonio, Texas. We
No
adopted my daughter
way.
from Bexar County Courthouse, which is the courthouse where my
Oh
parents
my
adopted
gosh,
me.
that is
Wow.
beautiful. That is
That
amazing.
is.
Okay,
That is.
so I'm going to tell you something even crazier. So I tell Maylin this all the time. May, even if you didn't want to be a part of our family, like God had it so set up, there's no way that you were not to be part of our family.
Yes.
So before I adopted May, my way of working myself through waiting for the adoption was I would write letters to her mother. Well, you don't know what age child you're going to get or anything. So I'm just making this up. Like I'm just writing it as if
To the speculative
to the
mother of my
speculative
speculative
mother.
child.
correct.
Yes.
So I did not go back and think about all those letters and stuff and the time frames until I was pregnant with my son. Ken and I got married. We came back. We came back. We got her. We got married 3 weeks later and dedicated her at our wedding,
Wow.
and then adopted her.
And how old was she when you brought
She
her
was
back?
she was 11 months.
Okay.
So she had her first birthday exactly a week after our wedding.
Wow.
So so they asked me to speak. I got pregnant with Carson. They asked me to speak for Mother's Day. And so I went back to look at all May's stuff. And when I go back to look at it, I realized that the paperwork I signed for my application to apply to be a adoptive parent was exactly on her a year before she was born. May 4th, which is her birthday.
What? That
Yes.
is wild.
So then when I go back and look at from that point on at where I wrote those letters, there's just one letter I wrote and I said, I'm just guessing that maybe you're 3 months old today or that maybe your mom's 3 months today and and it fell right in line with her mom's pregnancy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
That is unreal.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, there's no way
That's
that you can
amazing.
say how
That's-
orchestrated
that's
this
divine.
was. But
That's divine.
yeah, I mean, it was like, and we had some rough times. I mean, May's, she's international adoption. She's culturally, she's totally different than we are. She used to get mad because she wanted her eyes to look the way they look. She
Aw.
wanted my hair, color. She wanted, so we had to work through identity stuff. We had to work through, she was angry that she was adopted. And I was like, I get it. I get why you're angry. Like, I remember I was angry and and Carson, God love him, is the exact opposite. Like Carson was mad because he wasn't adopted. He was mad because he didn't come from China. When he was little, he'd go, well, she got to come from China. And I'm like, really? I cannot win. Like, I cannot win here. Like,
We have a kid. He's in the Navy now, so he's a brilliant kid, right? He's smart and all that stuff. Well, we have a one that is adopted from Guatemala.
uh-huh.
Okay. So when he was little, he first met her at the airport. So she came from the airport.
Uh-huh.
So a little ways down the way, he says, I want another one. Can we go back to the airport?
Get another one.
Yeah.
At the
Because that's where
airport.
you get them.
Because you
maybe-
get them at the airport.
Maybe take this one back.
Oh,
Because she screamed a lot. Like when we bathed her, she would scream like we were killing her.
Oh, yeah. May had a thing about baths. too.
Man, and we didn't understand it.
Yeah, May had a
Right.
thing about that. I don't think May had ever been bathed. I think she had been maybe wiped down, but I don't think she had ever been bathed. Like, I removed umbilical cord, dried umbilical cord.
You
out of
don't
her
know how
belly
these
button.
other and in other, like, we were concerned thinking back on it now that our kid was maybe a baby mill kind of a situation. Maybe that Guatemala, you don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
I know.
pretty poor
It's tough.
country.
right.
And I mean China, you don't know.
Yeah, Maylin's,
what you're
the whole
getting either.
whole back of Maylin's head was flat when we first got her because of how much she had laid in a bed.
What did they help you? Did you do it with your hands, or did they give you something to put on her head to
No,
help
they
it, or
didn't.
they
It just eventually reshaped itself.
Wow.
But we, like when we got May couldn't, she was 11 months old. She couldn't sit up by herself. She couldn't hold her own. She had never held her own bottle. You can tell they collar fed her because she would put her hands down like this when you put the bottle in her mouth.
Oh.
She was still drinking from her bottle. She still hadn't eaten real food yet.
Bless her heart.
She self-stemmed. You could tell she didn't have a lot of toys because she self-stemmed. She played with her fingers and her feet. And she would get herself to sleep by kicking her foot to put herself to sleep
Poor
at night.
baby.
And so, but within 3 days, she was sitting up. She was playing with toys. She was holding her bottle. Like,
Come on.
it's amazing how
That's what
quickly
love does.
they catch up. Like, they
Yes.
start getting exposed to things and how quickly they. But she's an amazing kid now, and she's
How old is she now?
wonderful. And she just turned 20. She was born 2001, so 25.
Okay.
And her daughter is, she just had her first baby in January. So I have my first grandbaby.
That's amazing.
And she married her high school sweetheart. And
Where'd she graduate?
they graduated from Hardin Jefferson.
Oh, it's a good school.
Yeah. And he's a Black young man. So we've got the whole cultural
That's amazing.
going
Yes.
in our family, which I love. And he's like, I told him and I told his parents, I said, you are the young man I prayed for my daughter. Like the boy I prayed for my daughter that would grow up to be her husband. You have all the qualities I prayed for. in
Wow.
him.
How did he respond to that?
He cried.
Oh, that's good.
Of course.
He's a good man.
That's good.
He's a very good man. He's a good daddy. He's a good man. He's good to my daughter. He's good to me. He is a good man.
Wow.
And
Checks all the boxes.
he does. He is a good guy.
Yeah.
And but Kent and I got to a tough time because we took in so May and Carson, we all go to this church together. There's two kids that they become friends with at the church that we start having over our house all the time because they're in a kind of a tough family situation. The grandparents are raising the kids, and eventually the kids get removed and CPS is involved. So we talk it out as a family and decide we're going to bring them into our house. The son and the daughter, the two siblings, we're going to take them into our house and try and work with them until the dad can get his act together, and then they'll go back to the home, which never happened. But so we took them into our family. Well, things got crazy because, they were 13 and 14. So a lot of stuff had been happening and a lot of acting outs going on already. And so it was rough. And I knew it was going to be rough because I had already done it. So I knew what it was going to be like. But my family did not. May thought she was getting an instant sister who was going to love her. And Carson thought he was getting an instant brother who was going to love him. And it wasn't that way at first. There was a lot of acting out. There was drug use. There was stealing of money. There was fights. There was craziness. It was just crazy.
A little bit of chaos.
It was chaos. And she eventually ended up having to get some treatment. And my son, the youngest, said, I remember he goes, I want to get adopted. And I said, really? Because every time your sister's left or done something or gone somewhere, you've wanted to go with her. And he goes, I'm not doing it this time. I want to stay here. I want to get adopted. And I said, okay, buddy, we're going to adopt you. Well, Ken and I started we were going through a hard time. Ken is a great man. He's a good man. He's a good man. It's not that he's not a good man. He is a good man. But we're on opposite sides of the spectrum. Like, I'm a social worker. He was a police officer. He was totally black and white. It's either this way or that way. There is no gray. And my whole life in my career and everything is gray, right? And so relating to each other was so difficult and it was tough. And the kids really, when you bring especially teenage kids that have been through trauma into your house, it brings everything to the surface. And it was tough. And so we ended up deciding to separate and get a divorce. When we separated to get a divorce, the boys came with me. May stayed with his, because she was fixing to graduate. She was graduating. She was a senior in high school. We had been married 19 years. We were married for 19 years. And the boys came with me. And Kent decided that it was not his choice to adopt Zeke at the time. He just felt like that's just not where I am in life right now. And I said, it's fine. I'll follow through with that adoption because I had already chosen him as my son. I was fine with that.
How old is he?
He's 22 now.
Okay.
Yeah, he was, but then he was 15.
Okay.
16. So 2 years later, I adopt him through the court system after we finally get our divorce finalized and I'm able to adopt him. So legally, I adopt him at 17.
Wow.
I remember the judge said, so why at 17 do you want to be adopted? And he goes, well, why not? And I was like, yeah, there you go. Why not? So
This is hard.
So but he and Carson are only 3 months apart, so they were in school together.
That's good.
My mom at the time, my father had passed away 20 years ago. He got Alzheimer's, and he ended up having an injury that put him in a nursing facility, and he had a stroke while he was in the nursing facility, and then a bleeding ulcer, and then we lost him after that. So that was tough. And then mom did great living on her own and stuff for a long time, but then she developed Alzheimer's. It's crazy. She developed Alzheimer's. And we ended up having to put her in an assisted living facility. So when I got separated from Kent and the kids and I, we needed a place to go because the divorce wasn't finalized yet. I couldn't legally buy a house under my name until the divorce was finalized. So we had to move into my mom's old house. So we moved into my mom's old house and lived there. And when I got there, I found I'm not good. I was not, I'm telling you now, get the mammogram. I was not good at keeping up every year with my mammograms, but I did find a lump in my breast.
You found it
And
yourself.
I found it myself, and I thought, oh, this is not good. So I went in. This was right at the beginning of COVID.
Did it hurt or was it just there?
It was just there, but it was large. I mean, I could tell it
Okay.
had gotten pretty large. And so I had the two boys, and I had taken in another boy. The kids had called me one day. Carson, my son, he is a great mix of my husband and I, but my ex and I both, because but he gets the social worky side from me. So he calls me one day, he and Zeke, and he goes, look, Mom, we're at my friend Fabian's house. He's getting kicked out of his house. His mom, CPS, is here. And I told him, you're a foster mom and you could take him in, and can we just take him? And I'm like, Carson. And he goes, here, I'm going to give you to the CPS worker. And I'm like, oh my God. So I talked to the CPS worker. I talked to the mom, and I said, look, I told the mom, I'm willing to take him in for a few, for some months and try and get him back in school. He wasn't in school, hadn't been in school 18 months. I said, I'll try and get him back into school, get him settled, and then he can go back and live with y'all. And she said, great. So I take in this third teenager with problems into my house. And then I find the lump. So while this is going on, COVID has started. And
good times. Just
it was
party
great.
for everybody.
It was party for everybody. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, great. So and a storm was coming in, so we were going to have to evacuate the campus. We were still on the campus at this time, and I had
Imelda, was it?
Yeah, and I had just the emergency shelter was the only residential program I had left on the campus. So we were going to have to evacuate. And my biopsy was scheduled for that morning. So I had the boys go with me. We go to the campus. We load everything in the trailer. I hooked the trailer to my Pilot at the time, my Honda Pilot. I've got these 3 teenage boys and my daughter in her car behind us, following us up to camp. And I said, look, I've got to stop in and do this procedure on our way out. Y'all can't come in with me because it's medical and so I said, just wait in the parking lot till I get through and then I'll come out. So I come out, and then we're going to camp, which is 6 hours away. So the camp, Buckner has a camp. And so we go there when we had to evacuate. So I have a biopsy, and they go, now go home and rest for the day. I drive 6 hours with a trailer.
Yeah.
to there. And so then it takes them a week and a half. Normally it takes 72 hours to get your
Right.
results back. But because everything was shut down here, it took them a week and a half to get the results back in. So when we get back, I had called. This is where God, God's involved in everything. And he, I remember, the oncologist, the radiology oncologist I went to, I was so grateful for her because after she did her part, and I still hadn't gotten the diagnosis back, and she basically told me, I think it's cancer. Which I was grateful for because I'm the kind of person that needs to, I just tell me. I don't care if it's bad news, but tell me so I know. I'd rather know than not know, right? So when we got back and I go in, and I having to do all this because every building you go in, you're having to be by yourself because you can't take people with you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and I go to the back and the woman goes, we got the information back and it is cancer. It is breast cancer. And I said, okay. And so I call my PA, who's a friend of mine. And I said, okay, this is where we are. And I said, I want to be referred to MD Anderson, and I have a surgeon I want to use. And she goes, okay. She goes, well, come up to my office and let's get this worked out. Well, my good friend I've worked with forever, his wife, a few years back, but prior to me, had cancer, and she had to have a mastectomy. And I had been up at the hospital with him the day of her mastectomy waiting. And when the surgeon came out, she called he and I over to explain what was happening and, what after the surgery and everything. And I loved her. She was amazing.
Right.
And so I said, that's who I want. Right. So I go to my doctor and I said, okay, this is who I want. She goes, oh, I already called her. I already made the arrangements. That's a God thing.
Yes.
She said, I already made the arrangements with her.
That's so amazing. And you never told them before.
And I hadn't told her the name yet.
That's so great. That is so great. That is awesome.
Yes, thank you for that.
So where are we now in the experience with cancer? I mean,
so they found out not only did I have breast cancer, but it spread pretty good up to over 4 centimeters. So I was stage 3. And so they were going to have to do a complete mastectomy. And I'll say that this is the hard parts of things are so my mom at this point, her Alzheimer's was struggling to have conversation, didn't always know us. So I remember after I got told, I can remember sitting at that stoplight and all I wanted to do was go. Hug my mom, tell my mom, have my mom hug me. And she was also at the point where you could hug her sometimes, but she didn't always hug me, and I'm like, Lord, you can't go tell her. You can't tell her because she won't get it. She won't be able to understand it. So that was hard. I was like, God, that part was hard. I had teenagers that was worried about them and how they were going to handle it. Right. They were already struggling through a divorce. So I found out I had to have the complete mastectomy, and I had to schedule the surgery. I was going to have chemo and radiation. And Fabian was still at the house, and he was acting out. And he had just gotten kicked out of school from having marijuana at school. And I'm like 2 weeks away from going to my surgery, and the boys called me. They were at a friend's house, and they called me and they said, Fabian stole Carson's car, my middle son's car, and to make a drug deal to go.
Oh, no.
So I said, so Fabian gets home, and I said, dude, you got to go. I cannot go through the surgery I'm fixing to go through and chemo and try and keep you in line right now. I can't do it.
And I know that broke your heart.
I felt awful.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, I can't do it right now. And he goes, okay. I said, so we got to figure out where you're going. I got him back in school, got him on the soccer team, which they didn't even want to take him at PG because, he had been kicked out of.
And they don't play.
No, they don't play. So anyway, so I said, so he ended up going with an aunt. He went with his aunt, but after my surgery, 2 weeks after my surgery, I get this call from him, and he goes, "I'm at the courthouse, and nobody's here with me, and somebody has to be with me to go to court because he had to go to court for having drugs on campus." I'm 2 weeks out of surgery, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming, baby," and I'm on my way. So we sit there. His name is the bottom.
Oh my
list.
gosh.
So we have to sit there for 2 hours, and
Wow.
I'm thinking, Lord, please let this pain medication stay in my system until we get up here. We go all the way up there, and when the judge finds out he's not even living with me and I have no legal custody of him, he's like, "She can't do anything for you. Your parents either need to get up here next time or I'm going to send a warrant out for their arrest."
Whoa.
Man.
I'm like, well, just great. But so that was the hardest time. That was a hard time for me. I was isolated at home because we had shut down the campus pretty much at that point. And we're all working from home. I'd started chemo after the surgery. I'd started chemo, and I remember I called my brother. My brother lived, thank God, my middle brother around the corner. My other brother lived in Colorado, but my one brother, and I remember my hair was coming out in clumps and stuff. So I called my brother and I said, "I need you to come shave my head."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay." And so he came over and shaved my head for me. And but the hard part for me was during a year and a half span of time, right? I'd lost 2 staff of 25 years right before that, within 3 months of each other. One had breast cancer
Oh my gosh.
and was getting treated here. And we kept saying, "Go to MD Anderson, please go to MD Anderson." She didn't go to MD Anderson until it was too late. And it was everywhere.
Aw.
And so we lost her at Christmas. And then she was on my childcare staff. And then the other person we lost, she started feeling bad at work. She stayed at work. And as soon as she left work, she called her daughter and said, "I'm not going to make it home. I don't feel good. Come pick me up and take me to the hospital." She had a heart attack.
Oh, no.
We lost her. So we lost 2 people within 3 months of each other.
Mm.
And then I get cancer. I'm getting treated for cancer. And my guy at work, he was my supervisor, and he was taking over from me doing my intern time as ED to help out while I was going through treatments, gets sick and gets COVID and goes into the hospital with COVID.
Oh, man.
And he calls me and he's like, and we've been through a lot together. I hired him when he was a young guy. Like he's a big old guy, 6 foot, like 6'3", big man. Like he was almost 500 pounds at one point and ended up getting the gastro bypass and lost a bunch of weight and stuff. But he had some off and on medical stuff. So we've been through some stuff together. But he called me when he had COVID and he said, "Mom and I are in the hospital. We both have COVID." And he's like, "I'm just scared."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, Damon, we're going to pray about it. We're going to pray about it." And I said, "I'm going to pray for you right now." He goes, "Okay." So we prayed. And after we finished praying, he said, "I feel so much better." I said, "Well, good." That was my last conversation with him.
Oh,
A week and a half later, they released him from the hospital. He got up to walk to the bathroom and passed out dead in the house because he had a blood clot that released.
Mm.
So we lost him. And then we found out that one of my other supervisors ended up in the hospital with congenital heart failure. She passed. I lost 4 people in a year and a half.
Well, good.
Wow.
4 of my
Yes.
staff members in a
wow.
year and a half.
And you're-
I spoke at everybody's funeral except Damon's because I was going through chemo at the time. I was too sick to get out that day.
Yeah.
But that was hard times. The only time I think I was really scared about death was after when Damon died, and I got the call that Damon died that night. God and I struggled, and I just told him, "I'm scared. I'm just scared. I'm scared." If Damon can die at 48, I'm older than that, and I'm dealing with all of this. Like, how am I going to do it? And I've got these 2 teenage boys. Like, and the only way I got through that night is I just kept saying, they tell you just say the name of Jesus. I just said his name over and over and over and over again. That's the only way I know I got through the night.
Mm.
That was the only time I'd ever been scared to die, but I was scared. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, I believe, I know what I'm going to, but I was truly
Well, I don't think
scared.
you were scared for you. I think you were scared for them.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So are you cancer free?
I'm now cancer free.
All
I
right.
went through chemo. I went through radiation. And in between chemo and radiation, I had gallbladder removed.
You're just a hot mess there for a bit.
I had 2 stents a week long in the hospital during chemo from infections that I ended up in the hospital for a week at a time.
You're an overcomer is what you are.
Indeed.
I went from never going to a doctor or to a hospital to I spent the last 5 years with nothing but,
Right.
surgeries and
Learning humility.
I'm
A
like,
different kind of humility.
I'm like,
sure,
come on.
for sure.
And but I'll say that, on the other side of this, I will say this, and it's not been an easy road. There's been times when I to this day, there are weeks when I go, okay, Lord, I'm done. Like you said you weren't going to give me too much, and I've been crying uncle for 2 years now, and you just keep pouring it on. Like, I'm done with this. Because of the medication I have to take for the hormone suppressant, my bones have weakened. And a year ago, I broke my leg so badly on vacation. My second day of vacation, I stepped off a 4.5 foot at night drop off that I didn't realize was there and broke my leg.
Oh, my goodness.
Man.
And luckily, my cousin was doing his practice at Fondren.
Oh, okay.
And so I called him and I said, here's what happened. I'm sending you the picture. And he goes,
Forgive us. Chuck has
Yeah, I
an
got
appointment.
you.
He's got to
5 minutes. I'll see you. Thank you.
But I said, let him. I said, just go. He said, don't stay there. Come here, and we're gonna take care of you. I know who needs to do the surgery. And when I got there, he said, Laura, we rate a tibial plateau fracture between 1 and 6. You're a 6+.
So it was displaced and everything.
It was
It
bad.
moved all over the place. It was.
Yeah, it was bad. So they put an Alizaroth on my leg. Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
So it's 4 halos, and all these pins go into your leg to hold
I've
the
seen
bones
that
together.
before. Yes.
So I was in that for 7 months.
Wow.
And 3 surgeries, 7 months. I was in a wheelchair for 8 months, 2 months on a walker, and
You sure walk really well,
I've
considering
been
all the stuff
walking without a walker or a cane for 2 months now.
you're doing good.
So, but I mean, it has not been an easy road.
Wow. So you're amazing. I hope you see that in yourself.
I don't know about amazing. I'm definitely a survivor.
Well, it's not just more than that. People who just survive don't have such a positive outlook. They don't operate from a place of abundance like you do. You still operate that way. You do. I've seen you interact with other people. I've seen you in public. I mean, I can say this with great confidence. It's not speculation. I've watched you in action.
Yeah.
So you really are. You're a phenomenal person.
Thank you.
I hope you own that.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're finished.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep telling him I'm tired, but I'm tired, Lord, I'm tired. But
Do you know what cures tiredness? This is a fascinating thing. Tiredness is usually related to an emotional state, right?
yeah,
Did you know? I mean, it's usually not really physical.
yeah,
If it were, we couldn't. Like, have you ever found yourself in a place where you were in a flow state where you were doing something and time just passed and you didn't even realize it had been hours and hours had gone by, and you look up and well, that's because you had enthusiasm, you had positivity, you had that abundance was kicked in, and you were flowing, so you never felt the tiredness.
yeah.
I think there's going to be a reinvention in you. I think you're going to see that. You talk about, people talk about retirement. They talk about that transition. I think we have created a false expectation with that.
Yeah.
In our society, we invented the concept of retirement. In every other society throughout history, it was just repurposing.
Yeah.
They took the elders
Yeah,
and
I
they,
like that. I do like
Yes.
that word, repurposing.
and I believe that if you don't, you start to devalue yourself. If you retire,
Yeah.
think about that. To be retired means you're done.
Yeah.
There's nothing left. That's not true.
Yeah.
Look
No,
at
I think I want to transition. Like you said, it's like transitioning. That I think that's reinventing is actually a really good word, because I feel like, I hit 60 this year. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So I've been thinking about that too. It's like, okay, I need to reinvent who am I going to be for this next role in life? Like this next role in life for me and this next part of my journey, what does that need to look like? What do I want to do with it? How do I want to, I just feel like, I went to the Coalition on Youth Violence last night with the mayor's office. I'm on that committee, and I just like, there's so much more we got to do here. Like, there's so many
I hear
kids
it.
and
There
so
it's
many
coming.
families that need our help.
Yes.
Like, I'm just like, how we can't just sit back and just hope that something's going to change. Like, you have to actively be a part of change if you want change to happen. Like, you have to have some skin in the game. You got to put something into it. And that's what I feel like we've got to do. And I feel like, I've got to find a way to do that. And
The
I
next
don't know
question
what
you
that
need to
is.
ask yourself is, what will I create?
Yeah.
What will I create? And I loved your response at the Fatherhood Effect Summit the other day to my eulogy challenge. That's one of my favorite things, is the eulogy.
Yeah.
And it's not something I just talk about. I do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm happy to show you mine
Yeah.
if it helps.
Yeah.
But I think that for you, especially at the place you are in life and the things you've experienced and where you're headed, that could really charge you up to write your eulogy and help you refine your next incarnation, your next creation, your next enthusiastic endeavor, your next purpose.
Yeah, I like that.
See, for 36 years, you've been in pursuit of a particular purpose. You've accomplished a lot of milestones along the way, a lot.
Yeah.
But this pursuit is about to run its course, proverbially.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that.
So there must be another pursuit.
Yeah.
In order for there to be a pursuit.
No, and I do think that. I do think that I'm not sure yet what it's going to look. I felt myself drawn in different areas. My middle son, Carson, just became a police officer. He's a police officer for Lamar Police Department. And I've been on this committee with some officers. I've gone and presented to BIC police officers, and now about what Buckner can do for families as they run into families in crisis, and same with Beaumont PD, presented to them. So there's a part of me that's thinking, I don't know, but there's a part of me that thinks maybe I need to work with people who are first responders that are in trauma situations all the time, because I lived through a lot of trauma situations in my career. Like and you have to be able to, if you don't want to burn out or get into addiction or alcoholism or some other really unhealthy thing.
Escapism.
Yes, you have to learn how to deal with secondhand trauma. You have to do it. Like, there's no way around it. You can't circumvent it in any way. It is going to happen.
I think that's great. I think it's beautiful.
So I don't know. So, but that's kind of playing around with that idea.
I like it. I like it a lot.
So,
and I love the direction that you're taking with it. I really do. Thank you for doing that. That's inspiring to a lot of people. I have a lot of friends on the cusp of retirement, and I constantly encourage them.
Yeah.
Don't accept retirement.
Yeah. What's the next
Only
thing?
repurpose, only reinvention,
Yeah.
only
I love that.
creation.
That's such a great.
There is only
Yeah,
forward.
that's so great.
So I'm definitely going to push for you that way.
Oh, thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, I like that.
So forgive me. I'm not sorry though, but forgive me because I'm probably going to pester you in the time to come
That's good.
to make sure that
Hey,
we're
do it.
following,
I like
through
it.
on that. So you have really provided an amazing journey in your story. Thank you for sharing with us, with our audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your courage. I mean, you have really, your entire life is an example of courage lived.
Mm.
Have you ever thought of it like that?
Mm-mm, I really haven't.
Because you were just doing it.
I did.
I mean, think of it from the
Yeah.
moment in that pool. You had no business in that pool. Did you?
No.
No, but you were taking a leadership position inside of yourself and doing what needed to be done.
Yeah.
Not because you were told to, not because it was expected of you, because you knew if it is to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I own this position in life. I'm going to take this and do it.
Yeah.
And then while you were down there, you realized, well, I am also responsible for my life.
Yeah. I better do
Is
some more
this
things.
what I'm going to do with it? So then you took charge and you did more with it. Look at where we are.
Mhm.
How amazing is that?
Mhm.
I mean, that is truly a life lived with courage towards a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah. When I let God do it and Him be involved, that's what happens.
But He can only do it if we have the will to let Him
Yeah.
through us.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of will. Free will gives it that. We have the power to refuse.
Yeah.
So you got to accept
Yeah.
that you actually took part in that. You are
Well,
co-creator in your life.
And I don't want people to think that you don't go through hard, because it's hard. It was hard. There's a lot of hard times.
Of course.
I fight depression. I fight depression to this day. There are days when I have to tell myself, get out of bed, Laura. Get your clothes out of the closet.
Yes.
Go take a shower. Show up. Like, just show up. Like, you got to show up, right? Like, I have to talk myself through as minuscule things to make myself, because it's hard. It's not easy. Like, it's not just, oh yeah, every day was great and I woke up. No, there was a lot of hard days. There was a lot of hard days, but I don't know how to do it any different than to, like, I can't just sit and do nothing. Like, I feel like there's still people that need us. There's still things that need to be done. There's still,
Do you know what you're practicing when you do all that you just said? This is so fun. This is one of my
What?
favorite things. You're practicing leadership. Did you know that?
I didn't even think about it that way. I just thought I was trying to self-motivation, motivating myself.
You can be a leader of none until you're a leader of one.
Mm,
And it has to be you first.
that's
And you
great.
can't lead
Yeah.
yourself until you follow yourself. So that little thing that you did,
Yeah.
sometimes I have to get myself up in the morning. No, every day you have to get. In fact, on the days when it worked easy, you actually, before you went to bed, you had already decided to get up.
Yeah.
On the days where it didn't work easy,
Yeah.
before you went to bed, you hadn't decided anything.
Yeah. That's true.
When you go to bed with the courage and the conviction that tomorrow I'm doing this,
Yeah.
you wake up with purpose
Yeah.
and you flow into your day.
Yeah. That's a great amount. That's wonderful.
On those other days,
Yeah.
you are taking a leadership and followership role
Yeah.
and pushing yourself through.
Yeah.
But on both days, you're still a leader.
Yeah.
How amazing is that?
Yeah. That's great.
Because those who don't practice leadership,
Yeah.
guess what they did? They stayed in bed.
Yeah. That's true.
So look at you.
Yeah.
The result of not staying in bed.
Yeah. There you go.
See?
Some days it's just as simple as that.
So I'm going to follow that up with this. And we're drawing to a close. This has been an amazing interview. Thank you. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for asking.
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that we got to be the first vehicle to bring Laura May's story. I love it. I love it. So are you a success?
Yeah, I think I am.
I love it. She said it with almost zero hesitation. I know that's an unexpected question. A lot of people, you'd be surprised the answers we get. We've had one person say no, but then they changed their answer.
Yeah.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I mean, do you think you can always look back at your life and say, oh, I could have done this better. I wish I would have done this,
Well,
or I
of
wish I wouldn't have made
course.
that mistake, or I wish I wouldn't have done. But overall, it's a matter of, are you going to get up and try again? Are you going to get up and try and do it different? Are you going to get up and that's, to
Are
me,
you
that's what
gonna
I
get
count.
up?
That's right. That's what counts as success to me. Like, then you just keep trying, right? You just keep trying because you just don't give up. You don't give up.
So there are two questions that I ask every guest, and they're traditional questions as we close the show. But before I do that, is there anything that you'd like to tell the audience, or anything that you'd like to share that we missed? If there's any part of you that we didn't draw from or draw out that you'd like to share, I'd like to give you that opportunity.
Well, I will say this about, so I'll say this about adoption because I had the chance I ended up meeting my biological father and my biological mother. That's a whole different story. But, and they had a really tough, they were 21, they were in college, they were not in a place to be able to raise a child by themselves. My mother did not tell anyone, my birth mother, and she got on a bus pregnant and alone, went from UT to the hospital, gave birth to me, and gave me up and didn't tell anyone for 5 years before she finally told her parents. And she has 7 siblings and didn't tell any of them. And only to this day do 2 of her siblings know about me, 2 sisters, and no one else knows except for her husband.
Wow.
My half brother and sister never knew. She never told them. She's not going to tell anybody else. She's so ashamed. And so here's what I'm going to say about that. I'm so grateful to God that He allowed me to tell my birth father, who felt totally guilty for not stepping up and being a parent, that I was not angry with him, and that I thanked him for giving me life and choosing to give me life and choosing to give me an opportunity at life. And my birth mother, I told her the same thing. I'm so grateful. You're so strong as a mother to be able to hand over your child. And I, as a mother, I know what that feels like. I can't even imagine as a mother having to make that choice. Like, I can't imagine the pain emotionally of handing a child over. And so I'm so grateful to both of them. I'm so great. And I feel like I have an appreciation on both ends, as a child that was adopted, as a mother who's adopted. I feel like I appreciate so much now, not just the child and what they go through, but I appreciate the parent who had to make the choice to place their child. Like, I appreciate their walk and their courage and their pain differently because I've seen it from both sides.
Thank you for saying that. That's a lot of depth in that. That's meaningful. And I know there are people in the audience that need to hear it. If you're a young mother out there, a young expecting mother, there's going to be natural feelings of shame and natural feelings of loss in the potential, in the thought of giving your baby up.
Yeah.
I can encourage you, both of us can encourage you that it's very possible and very likely even that they'll have a wonderful life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that they'll experience things that you might not have been able to give them. Yeah. And it's not shameful on you.
It's courageous. It's
yes.
One of the most courageous things you can do for your child, loving things you can do for a child, to know if you can't do it, that you're willing to pick someone who can.
To help them have a better life.
That's right.
To help them have life.
Period. That's
life.
Right. Just a chance at life. Yeah.
So I'd like to say thank you.
Absolutely.
If you have the courage to do that.
Yes.
Sure. Follow through. Well, the last 2 questions I asked, and thank you so much for sharing that. I think that was very meaningful. Not many guests can share a story like that and then drop some profound wisdom like that at the end of an interview.
Yeah.
So well done.
I think.
Well done on the whole thing. It was a great interview, and it was such a great privilege and honor to have you with us. So the last two questions. The first is, if there's a young person out there, let's say a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old person who sees this interview and is inspired, and they want to live a life like yours. Can't do it just like you because no one can. My goodness, you've got a big life. But they're inspired by your life and they want to be like you. What advice might you give them?
I would say, first of all, do not let anything discourage you from pursuing who you want to be in life. Don't let anything, don't let your own doubts or your own insecurities, like, you have to go for it. You have to please allow yourself the opportunity to fail, because you will when you start doing stuff. It's okay. And just know it's okay. And my most growth as a leader, and the only reason I have any good qualities at being a leader is because I failed and I learned from my failure. That's how I got to be a good leader. Is I said, okay, how can I learn from this and how can I do it better next time? And if you do that in life, like, you're going to be successful at whatever you do. If you are going to fail, it's okay. It's okay. Doesn't mean anything. It just means you figure out how you do it better the next time and you keep going. And that's what makes you better at whatever you decide to do in life. And you've got the ability. God has a purpose for your life. I told my boys and my daughter, God has a purpose for your life. And you have a purpose. Don't ever doubt that. Don't ever doubt that.
Thank you for that. That was wonderful, beautiful advice. Well delivered. Wow. So the last question I'm going to ask you is my favorite question. Okay. So if you could go back in time and you could whisper advice into your own ear at that same age that we just gave advice to, 15, 16 years old, what would you tell yourself? What sage advice would you send back to you in your youth?
I would say, let go of the insecurity. It's okay. You're okay. Who you are is okay. Who you're going to be is going to be okay.
That's good.
And, but live your life. Don't doubt. Don't let doubt and insecurity keep you from doing what you need to do and keep you from trying.
The invisible prison.
Yes.
Doubt. That's good. That's good. So what I'm going to challenge you to do is take that same advice into the next endeavor you're going to create.
Okay.
I don't normally do that. This is a first.
No, I think it's good because I need it. I really am at that cusp of, like, I'm going back into counseling right now to do that because I know I need to reinvent myself.
It's an interesting thing. I have a client that I'm working with right now, and I challenged him to do a project on self-discovery, and he did it this past Saturday, and he sent me a text afterwards, and he said, he did it. And I said, well, how did it make you feel? And he said, very emotional and very uncomfortable, very, gave me anxiety, basically.
Yeah.
I'm interpreting, but he said uncomfortable and emotional. I said, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Discomfort is the fertile soil in which the seeds of creativity can grow.
That's right.
They can't grow anywhere else.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what they need.
Yeah.
And you're in that right now.
Yeah.
So anytime you find yourself in a place of discomfort, be grateful.
Yeah.
Because that's where the next incarnation, the next creative endeavor is going to come from. The seeds right there.
Yeah. And we have to, at my age, I feel like you have to do that. Like, I don't want to be one of those people that goes and sits in their house and says, done. Like, I'm just here, right? Like, I'm like, if I'm going to live out the rest of my life, I want to live it out to the full. Like, that's what my mom did. Like, she lived it out to the fullest. She was active. She was involved. She was giving back. She was, that's to me, in her 80s, she's still out mowing her own yard and going to the church and cooking for people. And, that's how I want to be. Like, I want to be that person that just doesn't stop. Like, they just keep saying, okay, there's something else I can do. I may only be able to do this, but I can do that.
Life grows with expression.
Yeah.
You have to give it an outlet. So yeah, you're on the right track. Your mom's a great inspiration.
My mom was an amazing woman.
I love that.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. You've been just a wonderful guest. I have some traditions. I've already given you the gift, one of the gifts that we normally give to our guests.
In my purse right now.
I carry it with me. Your golden rule marble.
Yes, I can.
But you live a life that exemplifies behaving with everything in the golden rule. So thank you for that. Thank you for how you live. But there's one more, actually two more gifts that I'm going to give you. One of them is we have a very special tree here at the Pursuit of Purpose, in the Vault of Purpose. We have a tree that money grows on. And we allow every guest to pick one of the fruits off that tree. So if you would, reach over there and grab you one. And that's just a little bit of a souvenir for your time spent with us.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to give you one more gift. This one's a little bit unusual, but it's just a little notebook for you to use at your convenience.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
We sure appreciate you and all that you do in our community, in everything. I mean, you're an inspiration.
Oh,
thank you. And thank you for sharing with us and our audience. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing the show? Anything?
I'd just like to say that, please don't give up. Don't give up on yourselves. Don't give up on each other. If we want this world to be better and more loving and more caring, we've got to give back and we've got to give of ourselves. And so don't ever be afraid to do that. And please do it. Open your mind up to it, because it is what's going to make the change.
That's absolutely right.
And make the change.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, all of you out there, thank you for joining us again for another great episode of the Pursuit of Purpose podcast. I'm Rob. Laura May. Thank you, Miss Laura May. Y'all have a great day, and we will talk soon.